Everybody comes up the video. Y'all know we've been working, we've been working real hard around here, bro. Y'all know we was busting it down on Friday, child. Community wall posts, pre-recorded material, 2 live streams. So I done blew my notifications. Y'all know that YouTube only sends out notifications like 3 times a day. So if you exceed your notification, I don't even know what to call it. Like if you just exceed that amount of upload, then YouTube pretty much ain't messing with it after that. Like you on your own. People just have to happen to find you live. They happen to have just been scrummaging through YouTube. However, we can curb that by thumbing up the video. So you guys have to thumbs up the video. This is why I always encourage thumbing up the video, because this just helps to strengthen the live stream. It helps YouTube to promote the live stream. It helps us to enter into the algorithm. It helps us to be recommended out to other people who have no idea that we exist, who will see us suggested in their homepage, etc. So please thumbs up the video. It is the most significant single-handed thing you can do to support and help me grow our kingdom. Okay, so whether you are a Bush baby part of the Replay Gang, or you are actively in these streets in real time, please thumbs up the video. It don't cost you nothing, honey. It's $3.99. And speaking of $3.99, thank you all so much who blessed the king so much yesterday, honey, while I was out there serving it up for you guys, honey. You guys definitely showed y'all love with PayPal and the Cash App. So thank you guys so much. You guys know that all donation information is in the description box below. It's also at the ticker that's scrolling in all white and red at the bottom of the screen. $Consciouztv on Cash App and PayPal.me/Consciouztv on PayPal. Thank you guys so much and love you long time. What's up? Make sure that you guys are having your notification bell set to all, because we have had an influx of almost 3,000 new subscribers, girl. That's how hard I've been working for the past 28 days, honey. So, you know, teamwork is the dream work. You know that work ethic is everything. So we are now shy of like 700 subscribers from 50K. This is absolutely nuts. So excited, so inspired, and so proud of us for doing the work and for growing the platform. We doing this without no label, no management, no promo. Don't mess with us, honey. Okay, don't you ever play with us. That's sarcasm. If you know, you know. No promo, no label, no management, no nothing, honey. Why is they playing with us? Okay. So continue to thumbs up and subscribe. And last but not least, please share the stream out to wherever it is you have digital community, whether that be your YouTube community wall, your Snapchat, your Instagram, your Facebook, your MySpace, the dark side of Twitter, Tumblr, or your personal OF. I don't really give a damn where you lay the link. So some whores know that we're live, and we're certainly in color. And with no further ado, let's go ahead and push on through Oprah.
I know a place where you can recharge your soul.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
And in the midst of brokenness, he gon' see your asshole.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
You gon' heal, you gon' laugh and catch a little shade.
Ooh, girl.
Y'all know he be slaying, y'all better stop playing. Come hear what he's saying.
Ladies and gentlemen.
All right, shout out to the Conscious crew. Hey, y'all, let me speak to everybody in the sanctuary. Once again, continue to thumbs up. Moderators, please encourage everybody to thumbs up who are in the bushes and who are coming into the stream. Make sure y'all are hitting that thumbs up. What's going on, Kiki? Hey, Shauna. Hey, Rumors and Tea. What's going on, Cali Girl? Hey, Boo. Hey, Dancing with Nature. Hey, Adora. What's going on, Lady D? What's going on, NSX? Hey, Sherry. What's going on, Latera? Hey, Jay. Hey, Just Here. Hey, Tracy. Hey, Carolyn. Hey, Sister Phyllis. What's going on, Rose? Hey, Boo. What's going on, Sin? Hey, Ann. What's going on, Lady T? Hey, Brown Mama. Hey, Boo. They have CTV working overtime, baby. Oh, period. What's going on, Keita? Hey, love. What's going on, Queen B More? Hey, baby. What's going on, Kiwana? Hey. Hi. What's going on, Bougie Ball? Nasty piece of Bougie Bobby in the chat. Hey, Boo. Hey, Valerie. Hey, Sandy. What's going on, you guys? Hi, iCarly. Hey, Boo. Welcome to all the new subbies. What's going on, you guys? Hey, Layla. Hey, Valerie. Hey, y'all. So, once again, y'all continue to thumbs up. We have a lot to get into. It is a lot going on, girl, in the media space, bro. It's just a lot going on, and we got to get into all of it, honey. So we're gonna be live streaming, girl, just pretty much every damn day. Okay, we're going to be going live about something. I have to definitely give a shout out to my street committee member and one of my moderators, Humanizing. Thank you so much for sending me the link to Cam Newton's interview about Iyanla Vanzant. This is what we're here to talk about today, you guys. You guys know that Iyanla Vanzant, hands down, is, someone I consider to be a spiritual mentor. I think she is absolutely incredible and remarkable. I absolutely adore Iyanla Vanzant. Fix My Life was absolutely revolutionary, and it changed so many of our lives. It gave us so many wisdoms, and that show dropped so many beautiful gems about healing, about communication, about introspective and shadow work, girl. And it's definitely been missed since it has been off air. Okay, now you guys know that we are equal opportunity roasters, so we definitely have had to pull on Mother Iyanla Vanzant's dreadlocks a time or two, girl, when she, had allowed that spirit of mummification to tap on her shoulder. But ultimately, for me, Mama Iyanla Vanzant can do no wrong. Okay. But y'all know, we will tug on whatever wig if we need to, child. Okay, so when that spirit of mummification, girl, just be jumping out sometime of great godmother Iyanla, honey. Okay, we be having to hold her accountable and hold her feet to the fire too, child. But Miss Iyanla Vanzant is that girl. Don't play with her, on period. And if you don't love her, don't talk about her, okay? The only people who qualify to talk about her are the people who love her down boots, honey. The people who celebrate her, the people who adore her, honey. The people who are enriched by her, honey. If you don't love her, shut up about it, all right? Tug on that wig, on period, honey. Equal opportunity roasters, gaggers, we righteous folk around here, girl. We got favorites, but nobody, not nobody, is above accountability and a chin check. Not nobody, baby. Okay. We got to keep it all the way 100 and a bang, baby. Okay. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is 100% evolved. So everybody has room to always grow. Everybody has room to always be better informed about a subject. Nobody is omniscient, omnipotent, etc., girl. So, there's always room, for constructive criticism and chin checking and feedback, on period. All right, everybody share it. Who can get their wig tucked? Everybody, baby. Okay. Oh, look at Rose. Why you not loving Iyanla Vanzant? Rose, what is wrong with you? Okay, that might explain, why you be acting up in this chat, baby, because you ain't got Jesus in your life yet, child. That explains, honey, why you be cutting up so bad the way you do, girl. Okay. I absolutely love Iyanla. I know that Iyanla, has a bit of a alternative fan base that is anti-Iyanla, that can't stand Iyanla. They feel like she's mean, she's nasty, she's rude, she's condescending, she's overbearing. They feel like she coddles black men. I've seen all the conversations and all of that kind of stuff, But that aside, honey, I am a fangirl down from Miss Iyanla Vanzant. So what we're going to do is I listened to the 2.5-hour interview that Iyanla recently did with Cam Newton. And shout out to Cam Newton, girl. He's been providing that content. I think we recently reviewed his sit down with, who it was? Was it Erica Mena? I believe it was Erica Mena. I think. I want to believe. But he been out here in these streets, girl, serving up the teens. And they had a great conversation. There were some things that Iyanla touched on that I definitely just had to come here and talk to you guys about. It provided such an opportunity and such a catalyst for a deep dive on particular subject matters. So I wrote down things that stood out to me about the interview, and I'm going to expound upon some of the key highlights of the interview, girl. And then if we have time, I'm going to drop the link so you guys can come up and share your thoughts as well. As you guys can see from the title of the video, Iyanla Vanzant touched on being a dysfunctional Black mother. She touched on dysfunctional Black mothers in general, and the resentment that sometimes are held, by their kids toward them. She spoke about Fix My Life and her feelings around Fix My Life. She spoke about polygamy, which is a man or woman who is allowed to have multiple relationships revolving around them. So it's either a woman who is courting multiple men at once who are all in a committed relationship to her, and or a man who is courting a lot of women who are all in a monogamous relationship to him. Okay, it's one person who is involved in multiple monogamous relationships. Okay, she also spoke about Oprah. She touched on a few things. All right, so one of the things that, girl, we got to get into, honey, that we got to get into. Hey, just here, who says, I wanted you to do a recap reaction of his conversation with Dr. Bryant. So everybody has been asking me to recap it. I guess I will recap it. I honestly just felt like Dr. Bryant slayed down so bad. I felt like she left no crumbs. There was really nothing for me to say other than, girl, I totally agree. But, if y'all want to have a conversation and want me to get into those things that we talk about it here, I can do that. But honestly, like, I ain't even got nothing else to say. I mean, she roundhouse kicked, KO. I mean, left no skin, ate the bone too. That was it. That was all, honey. Okay. So, but we'll talk about it. As it relates to this interview, let me pull up an old nasty visual chat, because y'all know I like a visual up here on the screen, honey. I like an old nasty visual chat. The first thing she opened up with on the interview with Cam Newton was she spoke about Fix My Life, the iconic Fix My Life show. She said that the thing that made Fix My Life very different from other reality-based series was that on Fix My Life, they were doing healing, okay, not TV. Okay, and I have to agree, girl, that this is in fact what made the show iconic, okay? She said that a lot of the 45-minute episodes that we got for Fix My Life actually took 3 to 5 days to actually film and condense into a 45-minute segment, child. So they was really doing the work and putting them damn people through it, child. Okay, now, in my opinion, this format is actually what made the old reality TV world very different from new school reality TV. Okay, new school reality TV, Bad Girls, Love and Hip Hop, Real Housewives, etc., they're all doing TV. While shows like Iyanla Fix My Life, The Real World, True Life, My 600-Pound Life, Hoarders, etc., they're actually focusing on reality and capturing people's authentic essence and struggles without driving a narrative or being performative. And I miss the old school reality world so bad when it was more authentic and true to reality than this man-made, overly produced, heavily sensationalized crap that they're doing on reality TV now. Okay. Now, Iyanla went on to say that she feels like the first 3 seasons of Fix My Life for her as the creator was horrible, because in the beginning they was trying to do TV. So she feels the first 3 seasons of Fix My Life were horrendous. However, by the time season 4 had rolled in, she had shifted it and she had brought in coaches instead of producers. She had brought in healers and ministers. And she also gave a lot of props to Oprah, Winfrey, okay, who she said stood by her having full creative control and letting loose on a project and being authentic to herself and her vision and goal for the Fix My Life show. So even though I don't mess with Winfrey, honey, you know, broke clock can be right twice a day. So I gotta give it to big back Winfrey girl for just telling them people to get the hell out of Iyanla way, girl, and letting her do her, girl, because baby, baby, did Iyanla do her, girl, okay? So shout out to Oprah, girl. Winfrey, child. Now, they moved into a very, very deep discussion, girl. And I couldn't even get past the first 13 minutes of the interview because my brain was just going crazy, girl. I had to literally just stop from jotting down my notes because I literally just could have wrote an entire Bible just off of the discussion around Iyanla speaking about being a great father, but a horrible mother. Girl, that is a whole word. That is a whole t-shirt. That is a whole book. That is a whole pamphlet. That is a whole sermon. That is a whole 16-part course, girl. She was a great father, but a horrible mother. Wow, 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 wow. The bells were ringing in my ear. I found that to be very powerful, and it was also, ironically, the way I had experienced my own mother. Okay, rest in peace to Jennifer, child. A lot of Black mothers have been Iyanla, either consciously or unconsciously. And I believe that this has led to an interesting complexity that a lot of Black people have had with their mothers, which is a sort of bittersweetness. Like there's an honor and a reverence on one end for mom, and then there's a sort of resentment on the other. You know, the perspective of a child being raised by a emotionally unavailable yet hardworking mother is very unique. And the experience of being a hardworking, emotionally unavailable mother is a unique experience. And before I go any further into that, I want to utilize a clip from Love and Hip Hop, fair use, and shout out to Love and Hip Hop, because there was an episode of Love and Hip Hop between Lil Scrappy and Mama D. And this clip almost makes me want to cry. Like I literally actually cried. Like I was so empathically Bluetooth into the scene and completely just got swallowed up in this very authentic moment between Scrappy, because it's rare that you hear Black men really go into their hearts. They're more so in their heads. And I'm always very encouraging and appreciative of Black men's vulnerability, because I know how much we as Black men in this white patriarchal capitalistic system are cultivated to be very stoic and to be very removed from our emotions and our emotional experience, and to be very removed and even ashamed of our divine femininity. You know, you are emasculated from that femininity and isolated into a toxic version and a stoic version of masculinity. So seeing Scrappy in the scene have this heart-to-heart with his mother in front of the cameras, in front of his wife at the time, and in front of his peers, I thought was very inspirational. And shout out to Lil Scrappy, who definitely is a cheating bastard, but you know, he really represented for Black men in this moment in terms of vulnerability. So let me go ahead and pull up this clip courtesy of the YouTube page Motivation Gems. And of course, once again, this is fair use. So Love and Hip Hop, cut it out, girl. Okay, cut it out, honey. This is fair use. Yeah, where's my fair use disclaimer? All right, so let's check out this scene between Lil Scrappy from Love and Hip Hop and Mama Damn D.
Trap house. Yep. So all I knew was that house. Yep. So all I knew was that. You know what I'm saying? And I love you because you held it down and like you did what you had to do. But imagine you never had child point of view. You never had to sleep with your mama 24/7 because you couldn't go in your room. Okay. You never had to walk in on my door. Yeah. You never had to walk in on my you know what I'm saying? The way I was raised, I had to deal with that because everything that happened, I had to deal with that. And I'm still dealing with it because ain't nobody come take me to give me no help. Ain't nobody got me no help. I learned about that when I got older. Okay, so do you know this real? Cause like this this in my head, my whole life, in my head. The I go through, I can't even go to her, she hard. I can't go to you hard. So I'm on the concrete.
Wow. Y'all, I'm almost in tears watching this again, girl. You know, he can't go to Bam because she's hard. You know, this is the hardness that a lot of Black women have spoke about, you know, having to tap into in order to survive, you know, being left behind to raise the kids that they co-created with someone else who doesn't want to take responsibility and go half on their babies. You know, this is the hardness that Black women have been speaking about having to tap into, living in a sexist, anti-Black, colorist, racist system and being unheard and being left to fend for themselves and having to tap into this survival mode, which assisted them on one end, but in a lot of ways, it put a lot of Black women on the defense. And it also shut a lot of Black women down when it came to their kids because they had to do a two-person's job and also carry their own trauma and also ensure the safety of their babies, etc. So it's just really interesting because this clip is like loaded with so much reality as it relates to the dynamics within the Black community, the dynamics between Black men and Black women, what has happened to well-meaning Black women in survival mode who nonetheless hurt their children in an attempt to raise them and provide for them, and then the children who experience that, and as I said in the beginning, had a love-hate relationship for their mothers. And Lil Scrappy opens up this line perfectly illustrating this by saying, you know, all respect and reverence to you, mama, because, you know, you stood in the paint and you did what the fuck you had to do. So I can never take that away from you, because if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't even have ever arrived at all. However, there's also another caveat to the way we live. There was another caveat to the way you parented. There was another caveat to the way you had us survived. And there's a dark side and a shadow side to that. And that shit freaked me up psychologically and freaked me up emotionally, etc., etc. And because a lot of Black women are still in survival mode, even as lovers and partners, a lot of time, at least from the lens and the perspective of heterosexual Black men, they don't feel that even their interpersonal partners, their interpersonal feminine female partners, are available. Because half the time they was raised by a hard mom and then entered into relationships with women who had patriarchal expectations out of the men. Like, yeah, I don't want to see your tears either. I don't want to hear your whining either. I don't want to deal with your emotions either. I want you to be a man. You know, I need you to cuddle me, if anything. I need you to wipe my tears, if anything. I need you to love up on me, if anything. I need you to provide that wall and that groundedness and that concreteness, you know, for me, if anything. And so Black men have largely felt also unseen, unheard, and have felt abandoned by the community equally to women's experience. And this way of living for Black men, this way of being shaped and cultivated by the culture and society of Black men has led to incredible and disastrous all type of mental health and medical issues for Black men: hypertension, cardiac arrest, diabetes, strokes, Alzheimer's. We know that Black men have a shorter life expectancy than Black women, largely because of the issue of untreated trauma, the issue of aligning with unhealthy societal norms and standards like stoicness and being emotionally unavailable, not only emotionally unavailable to your children as men, not only emotionally unavailable to your women as men, not only being emotionally unavailable to your community as men, but also being largely unavailable to your damn self as a man. And this is actually unaliving men. The statistics are bearing this out, that Black men are going extinct largely just from the inability to cry aloud, the inability to love themselves, the inability to form language and to speak truth and to speak their experience of their life. This is literally destroying Black men's community. And I want to play this clip one more time, and then we're going to move along.
Grew up in a trap house. Yeah. So all I knew was that. You know what I'm saying? And I love you because you held it down and like you did what you had to do. But imagine you never had child point of view. You never had to sleep with your mama 24/7 because you couldn't go in your room. Okay. You never had to walk in on my dope. Yeah. You never had to walk in on my just you know what I'm saying? The way I was raised, I had to deal with that because everything that happened, I had to deal with that. And I'm still dealing with it because ain't nobody come and take me to give me no help. Ain't nobody got me no help. I learned about that when I got older. Okay. So do you know this real? Cause like this this in my head, my whole life, in my head. The I go through, I can't even go to her, she hard. I can't go to you hard. So I'm on the concrete.
All right. So there's also another clip that I was trying to outsource for that I couldn't find, but it was another conversation that came out of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta between Sierra and her mother. And I think this clip was circulating on Instagram. I was trying to find it so bad. I thought I had sent it to myself, but apparently I didn't. But in this clip, Sierra from Love and Hip Hop was talking to her mother, and she was also, having a transparent conversation with her and saying, look, I love you, but we went through a lot of ish, and I had to live my life as a young girl with watching you get your ass beat constantly. Like, I left home from school sometime not even knowing if my mother was going to be alive by the time I got back home, because there was so much abuse happening in our household, and you was enduring so much abuse, and nobody ever asked me as a little girl if I was okay. Nobody ever asked me about my experience. Nobody ever asked me, what was I feeling about what I was living through and what I was being forced to witness, etc. And just like Mama D, Sierra mom was very defensive. She was like, well, what about me? Like, how you think I felt? How you think I felt? And Sierra literally was having to push through her mom's ego, who was narcissistically wanting to take up all the space in a conversation that was about the way Sierra was injured emotionally, the way she was injured psychically, the way she was injured mentally. And the mom felt like Sierra, as the child that she brought into the world, should have been more concerned about her mother than the mother felt she should have been concerned about Sierra. And right there, you could see what the insult to injury is, especially with a lot of us who have Black parents. where we were first and foremost raised to not even be able to confront authority. We were constantly also emasculated as both females and males when it came to Black parents who wanted to deny your emotional experience, who did not want you to confront your emotional experience, who did not want you to speak to your experience in the household. They didn't want you to get no assistance about your experience outside the household. There was a total, sweeping under the rug and denying the elephants in the house, whatever those elephants were: sexual abuse, physical abuse, shame, judgment, whatever the elephant was or elephants were. And a lot of these Black girls and Black boys raised up to be dysfunctional, complex Black men and Black women. And then we wonder why the relationship dynamics are upside down right now and why there's so much social tension between Black women and Black men. And a lot of this shit has to do with childhood trauma. A lot of this shit has to do with things that we never cleared up, things we never swept up, things we never put a bleach to, things we didn't even know we were hurting from. That stems from our upbringing. That got further complicated as we became older. And so going back to the Iyanla Vanzant conference, before I get there, you also saw the same thing happen on an actual episode of Iyanla Vanzant when she had Shay Johnson on. Shay Johnson from Flavor of Love, Bucky, Shay Johnson from Love and Hip Hop, when she had her two brothers and her mother on. And Shay Johnson and her mom had a very complicated relationship because Shay felt like her mother coddled her brothers, but pretty much was like hard and unapproving of her. And she didn't feel seen. She didn't feel heard. She felt she had experienced a certain level of emotional and verbal abuse from her mother. And Shay's mom also struggled through the process of accountability, and Shay herself struggled through the process of dealing with her mom being accountable. It got so bad that Shay and Iyanla ended up getting into it, and Shay ended up pretty much hauling ass and aborting the entire process because she was so triggered up and felt so discouraged as it related to her situation with her mom, So I'm just bringing up all these like instances in which Black boys and Black girls who grew up to be Black men and Black women who love their moms, but also have been hurt by their moms, who even in adulthood, are rearing through their experience and still not being provided the space to be heard and the space for closure because of the arrogance and the ego of Black mothers. Okay, now going back to the interview, child. I have found that, we're going back to my notes about the interview. I have found that when you have both a father and a stoic mother, it feels like you actually have two fathers instead of a mother and a father. You are provided for and given orders and structure, but not affirmation. So you don't feel truly seen or understood, or as though your parents have taken interest in your identity or personality. They're only focused on your livelihood and not your personhood equally. When you have emotionally unavailable parents, I think that this largely contributes to the development of intimacy issues when you grow up, meaning that you can be amongst and with people socially and romantically, but struggle to be authentic and vulnerable even to the people you are supposed to be close to. I think this is why a lot of Black couples and the relationship dynamics between Black people have been so complicated. It's because of the issue of being unsupported in our authenticity and in our vulnerabilities growing up. And when this type of hardness and toughness not only becomes your anecdotal experience, but it becomes something that is instituted almost into the culture of Blackness, which is birthed out of us being in survival mode in a racist, sexist, capitalistic patriarchy, we can end up navigating our whole lives unconsciously and unbeknownst to us, masking instead of living and having a true experience of ourselves and others. And of course, this has no choice but to complicate the attempt to love and be in love and to parent. And it impacts damn near every interpersonal aspect of our lives, including the way we see and relate to God and to divinity. Black children and children of color need more than Black children and children of color need more than anybody in this system affirming and present parents, because Black children are already existing within a system that doesn't see or love them and only seeks to exploit them. If Black children are not embraced by their village and community and given the green light to self-discover and celebrated for who they are and guided properly, not controlled, but guided, okay? The system and the toxic standards of the culture will create those children in its image. We don't do our jobs as elders, caregivers, and proper masculine and feminine guardians, and then wonder why our youth keep turning out like the images on TV and in music instead of like us. The KKK system is already controlling and rebuking our hair, our skin tone, our mannerisms, our body types, our lingo, and our lived experience. So who is going to be there to tell Black youth that they are okay as they are? That they are loved, that they are without fault in the judgments from the world, if the community is also mentally, emotionally, and physically unavailable. Providing for a child and raising a child are two different styles of parenting that are not to be conflated. A lot of our mothers feel they should have qualified immunity when it comes to their faults because they did what the father didn't as a single mother. And when the system of accountability, even legally, doesn't even operate that way. You don't get off a charge based upon how many other laws you obeyed. It doesn't work that way. And this inability of a lot of Black mothers to take responsibility for their wrong in light of all that they did right has led to a lot of Black men who were once little boys raised by those stoic, unaccountable, narcissistic, controlling, domineering Black mothers end up growing up to be men who don't trust women. And this also allowed a lot of Black girls who grew up to be women to not believe that they can do any wrong and therefore refuse to apologize or provide closure to the mess that they contributed to making. See, we have to learn that to be wrong is about error, not always about our character. And what I mean by that is a lot of times we can be wrong, believing truly that we are in the right and not wrong because we intentionally sought to be wrong. So it's not an indictment against your character because you truly believe you was in the right standing when you did what you did and when you said what you said. Instead, being wrong ends up being about having a misunderstanding about the way people experienced and received you and the way those actions impacted the receiver. And this attitude about wrong can help us to take the edge off when it comes to accountability. This attitude gives us more room to be able to assess ourselves and have compassion and appreciation for the person informing us about ourselves. This attitude can allow us to spend more time working through the experience with honesty and empathy instead of being defensive and with our egos. So Black mothers, I want you to hear me. And I want you to know that it's okay to accept two things. One of those things being that you did an excellent job, but it was not a perfect one. And that is okay to accept. Especially if you did all that you could and knew to do at the time that you did it. Whatever information and resources were available to you, it's what you utilize for better or for worse. For two, I want Black mothers to accept that the people, such as your children, who had to live with you and be in relationship to you, have a right to inform you about your good, your bad, and your motherfucking gutter snipe ass ways. And that it's an act of ego to accept the praise, but not the criticism from the same people who have had the nerve to also give you your roses. So they should also be able to give you their ass if need be too. Now, I want to speak to the injured Black children. For those little Black boys and Black girls who had tough, stoic mothers, I want you to understand that it's okay to acknowledge and have been hurt by your mother. And it's okay to forgive her as well. I want all the little Black boys and girls who have had mother fractures to accept that not all harm is caused intentionally. Therefore, all injuries, although acquired, are not worth punishing a person over, even though they are indeed guilty of the said crimes against your humanity. And this right here tends to be a lesson that we learn as we get older and make mistakes ourselves. And only then do we realize, oh, we can have the right intent and still cause unintentional harm. And that has been the truth of Black people and their mothers. Black people who may have been let down by their mothers. Black mothers who may have let down their kids. Is your parents didn't intend to hurt you, but nonetheless they did. This doesn't mean that y'all don't have to talk about it just because the affliction was unintentional, because y'all do have to talk about it. But if this is indeed understood on both ends, it can definitely make working together to heal it and fix it easier, because compassion sets the tone for healing to show up with open arms in any space. You know, I just found the statement. I was a great father and a horrible mother to have been such a powerful statement, and one that was just filled with so much revelation about some of the things that have gone wrong in our community that have led to generations of certain pathologies and psychic injuries. I mean, look at how much I was able to just expound upon just from that opening line alone. And once again, I still had to edit down my damn thoughts just so I could move past the first 13 damn minutes of the interview. So, girl, I literally could have wrote a book just on this line alone. I was a great father, but a horrible mother, or I was a great mother and a horrible father. My God, that is a damn book, baby. That is a baby, and I may just damn write it. I may just damn write it. Now, Cam Newton spoke about having a emotionally unavailable father who has completely opened up to his grandchildren, Cam Newton's children. You know, he spoke about watching his father give his children, which would have been his father's grandchildren, something that Cam Newton never got from his own dad growing up. And I remember Tammy from Basketball Wives saying this to her mother, you know, may she rest in peace, about how, you know, she was so nice and open-minded toward Tammy's girls, but Tammy herself growing up got the hard, stoic, rough, authoritarian version of her mother. I find this to be very consistent with those of us who have had stoic parents and watched them become these supportive, present, nurturing grandparents. And it's because when you are a parent, typically it's like riding a bike for the first time. It's trial and error, and you make all your mistakes during your own parenting experience. But by the time you become a grandparent, you are better at the road because you've had the opportunity to grow in wisdom and understanding as a result of having your own kids, being a damn guinea pig. Okay? So you've had the opportunity to see how your kids came out and how your parenting style shaped them. And you get to take the meat and spit out the bone and do it differently by the time your grandchildren come on to the scene. Now, when asked, when should a person seek a coach and seek damn med tail, Iyanla gave great feedback by saying, when you feel your L's are outweighing your wins, and when nothing in your life is looking the way that you would have it look, when you've become overall unhappy and unfulfilled, that's when you need some help, baby. When asked about if she feels that she made the impact she desires, she also gave another great response, which is that she's not trying to do or make impact. She's serving God. And what I know that means as a spiritual person myself who has the same attitude and approach to life is that she is simply on assignment, but has no expectations out of where that leads or what it produces. She's only focused on being committed to doing what she's called to do, baby. And this is so epic and such a rich and humbling attitude to have. And I think if more people focus on simply being true to their calls, true to their gifts, that they'd be able to have more fulfillment instead of getting caught up in the ego, which desires impact and adoration and desire the applause and the results, instead of the presence and beauty of simply showing up in what you're doing without obsession over the logistics. This healthy state of mind is what allows me to be great at what I do as a commentator and YouTuber and influencer. And it's honestly something that I feel like also sets me apart from a lot of my peers who are seeking to actually be famous and sensationalized. When I simply just enjoy what I do, and I do it for free because I have, and I do it for pay because I have, and I do it in any format because I have, because I just enjoy what the fuck I do, all that I do. I don't have to be jealous of anything or anybody because I'm always clear about what my joy is and in what I give my energy to. I don't have to be on their red carpet or flop around with devil worshiping ass celebrities, nor be on TV or nobody's billboard in order to be fulfilled and feel accomplished. I'm being true to who I am and what brings me joy. And that allows my black ass to be happy just where I am, while also being appreciative about where I am going. And with any so-called success that comes from what I do. But success isn't what I'm after. Doing it is what is successful for me. What happens after that is between God and the universe. If what I love doing ends up with me having a Grammy, with an Oscar, with the Soul Train Award, with being on a radio or earning me millions, that's just a result. But that was not the point nor the purpose. Now, she spoke about the last time she suffered, which she said was this past Saturday, because her youngest daughter's death was approaching the 2nd year anniversary. She said she's still greatly grieving the loss of her youngest. I've heard that losing a child as a parent is one of the most horrendous afflictions upon a parent. So my heart goes out to Iyanla. My grandmother has had to bury 3 of her kids. And I know that Iyanla knows that her daughter only transformed. She didn't actually die. But the loss of the physical experience can nonetheless still be heavy and take time adjusting to. Me personally, I think of death as not really death, but another way to have relationship to your loved one. It's just a matter of learning a new form of communication, because it's not the loss of contact or life. The person has just taken on another form. another vibratory and energetic form, which just calls for another level of communication. She spoke about perception around the death of love, the death of loved ones, that this was, spot on, because it's the same attitude that I also had toward my mother, that she had toward her daughter. And the context here that I'm about to speak about is for those who died because of decisions they made, not who died accidentally, or not those who passed away at the hands of other human beings, but those who passed away due to their choices. Iyanla said that what brings her out of her grief and what she uses to bring herself closure is accepting that her daughter made a series of decisions willfully that contributed to her untimely passing. Her daughter was a diabetic who did not take care of herself even after her diagnosis, and it ultimately claimed her daughter's life. Just as my mother died from hypertension and high blood pressure complications that could have been prevented, but my mother didn't do the things that she was instructed to do or prescribed to do, despite being aware of what the consequences could be. And hypertension claimed her life because it led to a brain aneurysm. I too miss my mother, as Iyanla misses her daughter. But I also have maintained communication with my mother through prayer and dreaming, and the occasional supernatural manifestation of her presence. And I also accept that my mother did what she wanted to do with her incarnation, and that those decisions were her right and choice to make. And while I can disagree with my mother's choices, they were hers, and it's okay, because she's a spiritual being first before she's a human one. And if she fucked up or got off course in her incarnation, she'll be back for round 2, 3, or 15, or she'll remain in her divine form, in her divine place. Because whether she lived out her full purpose or not, as a human, it's not over. And she is forever, and she is inevitable. So, and so am I, and so are you, and so is every living thing that the case for. It was all alive before it was physical. It was all alive. It's not alive because it's physical. It's physical because it's alive. So the unnecessary sadness and ruminating over death is not called for, because it's rooted in a misconception and misunderstanding about life and death, which is that it's final, when it's not. It's just another form of existence, and spirit, like energy, never dies. It only transforms, and our relationship to those who have passed on don't have to end when they transition, unless we cease to remain in contact with them. Now, she gave a beautiful blueprint on 4 foundations and principles to raising kids to be healthy adults, which is to provide them the affirmation, the love, safety, and the opportunity to be competent. Ooh, heavy on the competency. So that they're not codependent in unhealthy ways on you, on their spouses, or on their peers. She said, stop doing it for the children and justifying it out of fear of seeing them fail. Powerful. But allow them to do it themselves while telling them that it's okay to fail, because they're not defined by failure. They're defined by their character and resilience. This is a gorgeous principle system to keep in mind when fostering children. I thought that was absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Now, last but not least, Cam Newton asked Iyanla about if she was single or dating. Okay, she said that she is single right now by choice, not by force. Okay, she's raising her daughter's grandchild, I believe, who just came into her life, and he needs a certain level of care and attention right now, so she's committing her life right now to just making sure that he gets what he needs. However, she would love to start dating maybe next year, because she also wants him to have a healthy representation of a relationship between a man and woman. Cam Newton asked her about whether she believes in monogamy, and she says, at this particular age, she doesn't need monogamy. She's already been married. She doesn't need to do that again. So she's very content and very fulfilled with the concept of companionship and having a confidant. This is something that I've spoken about largely on this platform for a long time as well. I used, as an empath, a Scorpion empath at that, girl, ain't nobody been a more hopeless romantic than me, honey. Okay, completely idealistic and all, honey. Fantasy prone, the whole nine. But at the big old age of 38, I'll be 39 this year. I have graduated and outgrown traditional relationships and concepts as well. I too, like Iyanla, am in my soft thug peace era. I prefer peace over anything. If it takes you to be with someone else sexually, or to be with someone else emotionally and or sexually, etc., in order for you to provide me a peaceful experience, do what you got to do, baby. Okay. I have transcended this egotism wrapped around taking ownership and unconsciously looking at another person as a piece of property. So this has allowed me to have a lot more flexibility in terms of the type of alternative commitments and alternative intimate experiences that I can find myself in, such as in non-traditional relationships, whether that be polygamy. I have no problem being with a man who has a man, not a man secretly, but a man who is aware that his man also has a man, aka me. I don't mind sharing a person. I have no issue myself with courting or having a lot of meaningful relationships exist simultaneously, aka polyamory. I have no problem having a cut friend that I also sometimes go to the movies with, and we play house when we want to. Hell, I even have very close relationships and friendships where we occasionally will be intimate with each other, especially in our off-season single time. And those things have not complicated the friendship at all. I'm more so just into connection. I really don't care about the logistics at this age. I have mastered the art of self-care. And one of the most powerful things that I personally extracted from being single is becoming very efficient at taking care of myself. And I've gotten so good at providing for myself economically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically that it has reduced what I feel I need from another human being. When I cranked up doing more for myself, it took everybody else off the hook. So now I need a whole lot less from people. I really don't need your time. I don't need your texts. I don't need your call. I don't actually need anything from you. As a result of me refining my relationship and centering my relationship to me, these things can be wants. They're not needs anymore. So I'm very open to people doing what they have to do for themselves. I'm very open to just being connected. Once again, as I said, I don't think that it means something about me because the person I'm with is with someone. If you ask me, I don't know what the difference is between polygamy and polyamory and the way that our our general lives are set up. Because even if you're in a so-called traditional relationship, the person you're in a monogamous relationship with is still in relationship and loving relationship to a whole bunch of other people, their families, their mothers, if they have children, their best friends, their careers. We're already sharing people we love while we cling to this fruitless idea of monogamy that's more so of a social construct and something birthed out of our imagination. But we're already in polygamous and polyamory damn relationships. I'm sharing my partner with his best friends. I'm sharing my partner with his parents, with his siblings, with the community in which he loves. So there are no hangups for me around somebody having another intimate relationship with, because as far as I'm concerned, you're already in damn intimate relationships with other people, intimately, emotionally, intimately, mentally, spiritually, etc. So I'm with Iyanla. My peace is everything. And my peace is so much of a priority that if I have to be alone, that's what the fuck I would prefer. And by alone, I'm also talking about if I have to be without family, if I have to be without friends, and if I have to be without a nigga, I am willing to sacrifice all these groups, bitch. Okay? And I have. I have edited my relationship to my family down, baby. I only really foster a relationship to my brother. And I occasionally speak to my cousins. And I speak to my stepdad. And I don't answer the phone for anybody else because I'm just not ready to. Okay? Because I come from a people who have normalized dysfunction amongst themselves collectively. And when you come out of dysfunction, it's almost like coming out of water. It's almost like coming out of a drowning experience. And sometimes you don't know you are drowning if you have been born in the water. If you've been born in the drown, you don't know that you're drowning until you're on dry land. You're like, what the fuck is this? And then once you realize that there's a contrast, that you can actually breathe, that actually breathing and exhaling with ease and living with ease and existing with ease and outside of struggle. And you have something to compare the struggle to. Some of us, baby, we indulge on dry land. We indulge, baby. In dry land, bitch. And I've been indulging in dry land for the past 4 or 5 years. And I don't feel not near guilt about it, baby. I got relatives busting my goddamn door and phone down every day, all week, trying to figure out what's going on, what's wrong, where you been, bitch. I've been on dry land, baby. And unless you willing to knock on my door and be dried off and exist in a dry state, keep your wet ass out of my motherfucking life. And once again, I don't give a damn who you is. I don't give a damn how much damn DNA, bitch. Every human being is up for motherfucking grabs. Because what you will not do is come and interrupt the peace that I have worked my whole fucking life and made every sacrifice I needed to make and did all the damn introspective dark shadow work that at times could have claimed my life to finally earn. And think that you're going to come up in the house that I created in the image of peace, bitch, and get up in here slipping and sliding and tearing up shit again. No, ma'am. Like Noah, baby, I will close that door on your ass and leave your motherfucking ass out to sea, ho. And we'll go to bed and snore, baby, while I have left you to the environment in which you cling to. Because people were taught healing, but live drowning. People were taught dry land and live in the turmoil of the ocean. And I will close the doors of the ark on your ass. You better ask some of these people who learning right now, baby. The door has been closed. What you will not do is disrupt my nervous system. You will not keep me in a state of anxiousness. You will not make me feel unsafe. You will not put me in risky predicaments. And you damn sure don't get to do that to me and have the audacity to not reciprocate it to make it even worse. And I have a non-tokenism rule and law put in place, meaning there's no exceptions to the rule, not near. So when Iyanla is heavy on the piece and she's heavy on the baby, whatever the hell will give you peace so that you can show up in light and love for me, do what you got to do. I just ask. The only thing I ask is that you do it with integrity, baby. Ain't gonna be no lying. Ain't gonna be no deception. Ain't gonna be none of that. All I ask is that you do what you need to do to show up for me, whatever that is, honey. You need puss. You want to do you, honey? Okay, we can lay down our rules. We can lay down da-da-da-da-da. We can respect each other's terms and conditions. And if the goal is we're giving each other the freedom to have a humanity and the freedom to be true to our life experience with the intent of it providing us a happiness and a joy that we can bring back to each other so that what we have together is fun, is lighthearted, and it's productive, then I'm with that. I'm with that. Whatever that looks like for you. If you're monogamous, fine. If you need to play every now and again, fine. If you have a 20-gallon heart and you have the capacity to love other people, fine. Those are things we can discuss. Those are things we can come into understanding about. Because as the scriptures say, baby, and all other things, get under, in all things, get understanding. Because for me, I'm about that peace. Something that can happen as you get older and you mature is you lose your ego. But that's once again, if you are maturing as you're getting older. If you're not, you're becoming more egotistical. The more your priorities are about the things that money can't pay for. You just want a peace of mind. You just want to feel well. You want to feel well in your body and you want to feel well in your mind. And it just means so much more to you to just be able to sit out on your porch and know that you don't have a foundational issue. Your bills are well. Your health is well. The people you love are well. They're okay. And just the indulgence in that completeness and in that okayness, that means a lot to you as you get older. You desire to struggle a whole lot less as you get older. You do not desire the eye of the damn storm and all of this fuckery and foolery that is baseless and pointless. Your peace, literally, you become conscientious of, and maybe it's also a biologic. That priority of peace may also be biologically triggered because the older you get, the more conscientious you become about time. And the way you want to spend your time and what the fuck you want your time to go to. Where you are and what you do, you become more thoughtful and intentional about. Because that clock is tick, tick, tocking down. And whatever you're going to do, baby, you gonna have to, in fact, do it. So, riveting interview. I want to open up the lines, baby. Rumors and she talking about, child, you about to make me take off my bonnet, baby. I'm running to the house. I'm going to drop the link, honey. What do y'all think about Iyanla's, priority of peace? She's 70 and open to polygamy. Hell, probably polyamory. What do y'all think about her talking points around toxic Black mothers? Her identifying herself as a toxic mom. She is honest about, doing unconscious and unintentional damage to her children, particularly to her son, which is why she spoke about, her fascination with men and doing healing work with men, because she learns a lot about, her son when she works with Black men. So a lot of people who've been criticizing her about being a mammy and cuddling Black men, that's what is birthed out of, is the fracture. Oh, thank you for this, Rumors NT. Oh my God, Rumors NT got me the clip that I was talking about when it comes to Sierra. I just dropped the link for anybody who want to come up real quick. Let me bring up this clip, you guys. Thank you so much, Rumors NT. Oh my God, I was looking for this. Okay, you guys, this is the clip I was talking about earlier with Sierra from Love and Hip Hop. Remember, I played the Scrappy and Mama D video earlier. I want to play this real quick, and then I'm gonna let my booze up. Okay, check this out. This is courtesy of TikTok, and once again, this is also covered under an old nasty piece of fair use.
Like, to the point that I watch you get your ass beat my whole entire life. Like, to the point that some days I used to be like, is my mom gonna be alive the next day? But do anybody talk to me about that? Mom, you never asked me, was I okay though? Okay, but you never asked me, let me get it out. I remember running to the door, to my grandmother's door, begging you not to leave me. Have you ever thought about how I feel? Okay, well, you're the mom. Okay, I am the daughter. Go ahead. You created this monster. If I'm a monster, you created it. I know what you said. So I know what you said. Go ahead. I'm talking about in and out of jail. I'm talking about you making me watch my twin sisters when I didn't want to. I'm talking about my daddy doing my hair, going to school in the morning when I just wanted you to do my hair. I just wanted my mama. I didn't know that my mom turned her back on me and sided with.
Okay, I probably got to just pause and talk because, to give this old nasty piece of fair use, girl. But this is what I was talking about. A lot of injured Black girls and boys who are now injured Black men and women are still dealing with childhood trauma and are still not able to have a productive and honest conversation with their mothers. And I know the defensiveness of Black moms because I've heard it my whole life, my own self from my aunts and the community of Black women I've been raised around who do feel that they are above criticism because they did what the father didn't. And this attitude has been used to justify not ever being able to perceive yourself as out of order and with error and being capable of being a fault.
It was such a trigger. The truth is, this situation just reminded me of all the times that my mama turned her back on me when I was younger. I wasn't planning on going in this deep, but I feel like I just needed to let it all go. I don't want to hold on to the past any longer. You just not really telling me. I've been yelling this for the longest, but you don't listen because you shut me down every single time. I grew up mad. When I had Paris, when I got pregnant and you put me out, I was so angry and I didn't know what was this emotion I was feeling. Like, why am I so mad at my mama? And now that I sit down and I think about it, it is because of the kid in me.
Wow, because of the kid in her. Not being heard, not being affirmed, living through trauma, and nobody giving you a space to cry in, a space to talk your experience in. not having support. Wow. The kids oftentimes are willing to have the honest conversation, but the parents, and since we're talking about Black mothers today, we're going to keep it on Black moms. Black mothers being too arrogant to sit in that hot seat and take responsibility for where they dropped the ball at. Rather, it was knowingly choosing a fuck nigga to procreate with. Rather, it was being more concerned about a man and not having any discretion over what your children witnessed between you and the men in your life. Rather, it be through not taking up time with the kids and passing them off to their grandmother who really acted as mom. Whatever the fractures, the issues, the negligence, the injuries were, whatever the experience was. And Black mothers oftentimes thinking that their kids owe them something instead of realizing that they owe it to their kids the same thing that they owe it, the same thing that their parents owe to them. But it gets deflected down to the kids. What about me? When Sierra's mom said that, that's a conversation for her and her parents. For Sierra's mom and Sierra mom's parents. You brought these kids into the world. They don't owe it to you to be a nest to you. Whatever your issues are as a woman, you have to take that up with your parents the way that Sierra is taking it up with hers. But here it is once again, the mom is like, what about me? Baby, I ain't got nothing to do with you. I came after you. So you got to take you up. And what about you with whomever your abusers and afflictors were? I'm taking my issue up with mine, which is your ass.
So much trauma, and I never dealt with it.
I have had enough. Sierra, you're not gonna play me. You're not gonna make me look like I was not a good parent.
See, here it is.
I could have did better, of course. But Sierra needs to be grateful. And
there it is. Oh my God, there it is. There it is. Wow.
Tell me everything.
Let's rewind that back. Wow, this mom completely bodied the defensive posture that I just spoke about.
You're not gonna make me look like I was not a good parent.
And that's what this is about. The ego of the mom who knows deep down in her heart she dropped the ball in ways, she fucked up in ways, but once again, because I stood in place and did what your daddy didn't do, you need to be grateful and you need to absolve me and give me qualified immunity. And this is the wrong way to have a forward-moving, progressive conversation about the way your children experienced you. This is what you don't want to do when your children are holding you accountable. This is what you don't want to do. Everything that this mom did is what you want to do the opposite of. You want to be humble, you want to be honest, and you want to affirm your children in their honest experience of you. And once again, this is not an indictment of your character. It is an indictment of certain decisions you might have thought you were making that was in the best interest of yourself or of them, but that nonetheless resulted in injury. And you not need to be so egotistical that you cannot hear about yourself from the people that have had to experience you the most.
I I could have did better, of course. But Sierra needs to be grateful and stop trying to tell me everything I did wrong. So now we're against each other.
You literally went on live and went against me with my sister.
Ain't nobody went against your ass.
Yes, you did.
Wow, wow, wow. Baby, we're going to have these conversations. We're going to have to do better at these conversations. Even the scriptures know that the basis of healing has to stand upon confession and transparency. Before you can even get to your healing, there has to be an admission of an issue. You can't heal what you want to address. You can't address what you refuse to look at. You can't get from A to B. Without your transportation and your mode of transportation and travel being the spirit of honesty and truth. I want to bring up Rumors and Tea. Hey, boo.
Hey, Conscious. Hey, crew.
Hey, child.
Listen,
Hack it,
this was
child.
initially when I first started watching the interview, right? Cam was getting on my nerves because I felt like he was trying to get Iyanla. I felt like he was trying to get a free counseling session. But then I realized that, anytime you have someone like a Iyanla in your presence, it's going to always turn into that. They're always on their job of helping to heal someone. So I just got, because I believe that was my ego, true story. Because I wanted to just hear more. I know her story, some of it, but I wanted to hear more about her. But then I realized, because I do it often with myself, when I'm like, even when like I'm in conversation with you, I always go and refer things in my past, but it always turns into like a therapeutic session. So I had to get out of my own feelings. But I'm gonna tell you something. Iyanla literally shook the damn table in my life. It was several times where I too had to take a pause and really sit with some of the things she said, especially the parenting. Because y'all know, every time I come up here and we have these type of discussions, I always talk about I'm very transparent. I talk about my journey as a parent, how I'm always working hard to be self-aware and be the best version of myself with my children. But I fall short. And I realized when she talked about her son wanting to play football. I don't know if you remember, it was one of the panels like maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. We had a bunch of men up here. And I was talking about my oldest son, how he was becoming an introvert. He wasn't communicating and all of these things.
Yeah, I do remember that.
His behavior had started to spiral out of control. He became very rebellious. His grades were slipping. And I had really thought I had did like everything that I knew possibly. Having the conversations with him, because I allow my children to come to me and voice their opinions. And we have real conversations. I never want them to feel like they're voicing their opinion, especially when it comes to their life. Does not matter, because it absolutely matters. But my oldest son has been asking to play football for the last 7 to 8 years. And because of my own hangups, my own fears, I refuse to allow him to play. He could play any other sport with the exception of boxing or football. And when she spoke to that, when that woman said, we as parents, and we all have done this if you have children, and it was done to us. We try to control and dictate to our children. We make the decisions and choices for them. We rarely allow them to make a choice for themselves, especially when they get a certain, like, we don't entertain their real likes. If it's something that we don't find interesting, if it's something that we feel as though it's not productive, or whatever, we try to get and plan out their lives. And when she spoke to that, because she said her son went through the same thing that my son was going through. And it actually, what it did was cause him, he had no other interest. And it also broke his trust in her. And I said, dang, this is why my son, and I brought my son in here and I asked him, do you trust me? And he was looking at me like, I said, no, do you trust me? I said, do you trust me that I love you? Do you really, really trust me? And he said, what are you talking about? I said, no, do you trust me? Like, do you trust me with your feelings? Do you feel like you can depend on me? Do you feel, I said, what do you think when it comes to you and what you want to do? And my son said, I mean, I trust you, but when it comes to like what I want to do and stuff, no, I don't trust you or whatever. And I said, it's so crazy because he ran away 2 months ago and I had to contact the police. And when they pulled, the officer came, just thank God, this was a male police officer. And we live here in Georgia. So naturally, because I'm from the North, naturally I'm thinking if, my son, he does not look like, he looks like a stereotypical thug. And I'm worried about, if he's going to, how he's going to respond, although he's been taught, but how he's going to respond to the police, right? But the officer was so kind. It was nothing but the spirit of God. I have to be so honest. It was all my fears were immediately calm because he said I could not go with him to find my son. When they found my son and he came back, he said, I'm going to talk. He said, I'm going to be their mediator. And my son said, all he wants to do is play football. He said, all I want to do is play football. I said, okay, I have no problem. And then he remembered he wants to rap. And I don't approve of the rapping because of the profanity. And I said, you can rap. I don't have a problem. You got producers in your family. I'll put you in the studio, but you cannot use profanity.
Yeah.
I said, but when it comes to the football, and when she said that and it stirred back up because they're now homeschooled. And I'm trying to make this short and sweet. They're now homeschooled. So in order for him to play football, they have to get approval by the sports association in the state of Georgia.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he cannot play football at any other high school, well, the high school in our district, until his grades are up to par. So I said to him, I said, I'm going to put you in flag football. It may not be ideal, but once you get your grades up to par, next year, I support it. Although I have my fears, it is not fair for me to have my hangups and to literally dishonor you and prevent you from living out your experience. He may never get harmed and hurt. But I said that's crazy because as an adult, even when I was a child, there were things that I wanted to do. My mom didn't create those boundaries of any activities and things I wanted to do. She didn't do that. Those wasn't her shortcomings. And I'm like, God, out of fear of my child being hurt, CTE, we see the constant reports of the football players snapping, unaliving people and all of that. But I should not project that onto my son. I should be aware, make him aware, make sure the team is, have the proper equipment and all of that. So long story short, Iyanla really shook something up in me because I think I do have a tendency because I am so self-aware and I get comfortable in, oh, you're doing a good job. But our job is never done. There's always room for improvement. And I think as a mother, especially as a Black mother, we are horrible. We're acknowledging that even when you're doing the best that you can do, there's still more room to do better. It's still more room to do better. And regardless if the father's in the home or out of the home, it is still our job to cultivate our children and make sure that our children's needs are being met across the board. Regardless of what we've suffered in our own childhood, we should never project that onto our children. But we have a tendency, like she said, want to dictate where our kids go to school, want to dictate what they want to become as far as their life goes and all that. And I think that we need to stop doing that. Of course, because children don't know everything. They have not had all the experience. I think there's a proper way. And I do think that all parents, I don't care if it's before you have children or while you are mothering a child now, I think it's important for us to start going to parenting classes.
Yes.
Because a lot of us, we navigate through what we experienced as children. And it's all about, it really, like you said, ego. It always goes back to us and never really about them. And parenting classes does help. You may not agree with everything. However, there is that one major component where it is to focus on your child's need and not your own needs.
Yeah. Wow. And I would add to that, and thank you for sharing that, Aromas and Tea. parenting classes coupled with personal counseling. Because as we heard from Scrappy, we heard from Shay Johnson, we heard from Sierra, that people have been traumatized. Black and brown people have been traumatized, surviving poverty, surviving DV amongst their parents. I am a Black child who witnessed DV in my household. I have witnessed DV in my family between my aunts and my uncles. Black and brown people have survived a lot. And once again, I know that on one hand, a lot of our parents, they did their best. Even if their best sucked, they did their so-called best under the circumstances. And some of them truly did try to do their very best under the circumstances. But once again, we have to realize intent versus impact. You can impact the people or the person that you love negatively, even if it wasn't your intent to do so. And just because you didn't intend to doesn't mean there wasn't no injury caused. It doesn't mean there was no residual caused. It doesn't mean that there was no affliction caused. And you can't justify and complete and remain in the stoic posture of not hearing the people that you've hurt in the name of, I didn't mean to. That's not good enough, baby, but you did. That's like hitting you with my car because I didn't see you and you on the ground bleeding out with broken bones. And I don't believe I should be held accountable for hitting you simply because I didn't mean to. It doesn't work that way. Whether I meant to or not, I injured you. And I should absolutely participate in helping you and healing you because of what I did unintentionally. So I wanted to get more into that conversation. And first and foremost, I want to welcome Mary to the platform. I'm so glad to have you up here, boo. And I want to thank you so much for your donations that I've been getting from you through PayPal. Thank you so much. And I want to read your note and then I want to let you speak. You sent your donation and you said, thank you so much for dropping pure wisdom and healing medicine during your live stream about Iyanla and Cam Newton's conversation. I also had a mother who was emotionally unavailable and a great father and provider with my father in the household. It was definitely gender role reversal with my parents. I appreciate and hold them both accountable for their actions, and I have forgiven the both of them. Welcome to the platform, Mary. I want you to speak on it, baby.
Thank you, Conscious, for creating this kind of space. I hope I can get through this. I feel really emotional about this. So I want to respond first to Rumors and Tea, what you were sharing around football and your son. And then Conscious, what you were sharing about the parenting classes and also with personal counseling. One of the hardest calling for a parent is to make the most unpopular decisions. Our children, and when I was a child and even a teenager, I could not understand until later with life experience and hindsight why my parents were insisting on certain choices. And so when it comes to football in particular, I grew up in the South in the 70s and 80s. We didn't know anything that we know now about CTE, about all of the cognitive damage, about the fact that football is a high contact and it's a violent sport. So my brothers were both playing Pee-wee football from the time they were 7. I was playing football in the neighborhood with the kids. One of my younger brothers went on college football to the NFL and to the Hall of Fame. And it is such a double-edged sword. It has really affected him. It's affected his mind. It's affected his body. He has the body of in the musculature of a 70 or 80-year-old man, and he's a year and a half younger than me. I see the effects that this is having on him over time. It was traumatic. There were very much traumatic things that happened in the NFL throughout his career. They see these black men as bucks, and they are paid a lot of money, and you can't put a price tag on your long-term physical and spiritual and cognitive health.
Yeah.
I have seen him go through psychotic breaks from the trauma that was passed down intergenerationally in our family. He has not been equipped to deal with it in the ways that I've been able to deal with it. And one time when we were together, I should write a book on that. I've been planning to for years. One time when we were together, about 8 years ago, and he looks at me and he says, "Mary, we didn't know. We did not know." He sacrificed himself, and he has generated so much intergenerational wealth in our family. And it wasn't worth it. It was not worth it. And it's so hard. I understand why your son, why that is his dream. I really get it. And there's just so much that we still don't really know or understand. I went to the NFL draft the first year that it was televised in New York City and Manhattan in 1993. And the way they treated my brother, I was backstage crying because my spirit felt these people do not see him as human. This is a meat grinder. They're going to grind him up and they're going to spit him out the other side.
Yeah.
It is so hard to be a parent when, as children, sometimes we believe that our parents are dream crushers when they're trying to protect us. It's so hard. The second thing I want to say, and I'm going to pause here, is I have gone to counseling. Like I shared with you, for years, I have, I've done all kinds of spiritual and healing practices, and counseling has been at the center of that. And I've had the fortune and the privilege to have a Black woman counselor. And I will never forget what this sister told me. She said, I was younger. I did not have any children. I did not want to pass on the intergenerational trauma. I've been able to serve in other ways. But she said, you have to do this counseling, especially before you ever consider having children. You owe it to your future children as well as to yourself. She said the second thing, it is so hard to do this work because you are not just healing your own trauma and your own choices and taking accountability for those and the shadow work and the dark nights of the soul. She's like, you are breaking intergenerational curses. It is heavy work. So it's important, like you said, Conscious, to be able to take accountability. It is not to be punitive. It is not to blame ourselves. It is not to judge one another. It is to do so with compassion and with grace. And it is to do so with, we must take accountability. We cannot heal if we don't take accountability, if we don't hold ourselves and one another accountable from a place of love, because it's the key to real power and it's the key to real liberation. And it's hard. And it just, when I heard you, Rumors and Tea, and your son about the football, oh my God, I wish I could rewind the clock. And I know my mother, and I do have a relationship with her, and she's been an ancestor since 2009, a relationship that I never had with her when she was in human form. And if we could go back and rewound that clock, my mother would not have let him play football.
You know, Mary, I have a cousin who too played professionally. Unfortunately for him, I do believe personally, he has not been diagnosed, but I do believe that he's suffering from CTE. Always was a good kid, always was a good young man until once he entered into the NFL, his behavior became so irate, so violent.
Mm-hmm.
And he lost his contract. He became a freelancer, free agent. I think they would call it freelancer. He lost that opportunity because he just became extremely violent and just basically a criminal.
Mm-hmm.
And he himself has told me not to let my son play football. He actually says that to everyone in the family. But I think what I'm going to do
It's feedback in
is
your phone.
also a balance.
You can hear it.
In my phone?
No. In Mary's.
Okay.
I muted myself.
Okay, well.
What I'm going to do is provide a balance. I think that if I allow him to play football, he may never make it past high school with it, right? If I allow him to play the football and offer other interests as well, I just think there needs to be a balance too, because I'm watching his behavior. And if my child is willing to run away because he's feeling like I'm making all his decisions, taking away his freedom to make a choice for himself, um, I'm not willing. I don't want anything to happen to my child. I don't want to be like an iron fist parent and say no. I mean, there is, which I explained to him, there are going to come some times where some of the things he wants to do is going to be an absolute no, because I know that it is not what's in his best interest. But I want to allow him the opportunity. It may just he literally may lose interest, because we as human beings, we lose interest. Some of us can't. Today we like soda, tomorrow we on water all day. You know what I mean? So our interests are fleeting at times. But he's been consistent in wanting to do this. So I definitely, because that's been my only reason for not allowing him to play football, is because of the CTE. I want to check my own fears. I want to have faith. I want to still be educated. There are certain things to do, to put into place, even though nothing is 100% guaranteed. But I do want to allow him to have that opportunity. And I'm just going to pray and hope that, my ancestors and the universe and God all collectively guide him to a different path. Once he gets it in his system and he experiences it, that it will pass for him and he'll be satisfied. You understand?
I do.
So I thank you for that, though. I really do.
I also want to affirm you, Aromas and Tea, because, your primal instinct and responsibility is to protect your children as long as you have legal right and claim over them. That it's also okay for you to toe your line on this issue. It's okay for you to establish that this is one of those things that you're absolutely not going to be able to support him in if you believe that this could cause him severe health and physical complications. Even if he doesn't play football for an extended amount of time, he could get hit the wrong way and be paralyzed, etc. It don't even take years in that field to acquire injury, whether it be permanent or temporarily. So if he, and it's also not okay for him to blackmail you, like, if you don't allow me to do this, then I'm going to punish you by running. But if that is his response to a decision that you are going to stand on, then I also want you to know that you are not at fault for his ass running away, and you're not at fault for whatever happens to his ass as a result of running away, because he's making a choice to defy you under your roof, where, as unfair as it may seem to him, you do have the final say so, and you are making the final say so about aspect of his life that you don't want to have blood on your hands about. And that's okay. It's okay for us to tell our children, when you grown, baby. We heard it all. We heard it all the time growing up. Now, what I will say about this conversation that we're having is, I also know that our parents overly utilize that as a way to also control us in ways that weren't always necessary. Just being domineering and dominating and narcissistic about things that did not require that. But there is space for the when you grown. And as you said, it's about those areas for you as a parent that you have decided, no matter what, this is a no for me. This is going to be a no for us. I don't give a damn how you feel. I don't give a damn how much you want. I don't give a damn how upset you are. I don't give a damn. 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 I've heard you out. I will give you the space to talk to me about your feelings about it. I will give you the space to cry. We can mourn together, baby, that you're not going to be doing football underneath this household. We can cry together, honey. Let's cry together. That is not going to happen underneath this roof, baby. Okay. Let's let's get in front of the fireplace, baby. And let's support each other in the sadness that's gonna come from that, just not being able to be an experience. And I'm gonna be able to green light for you underneath this roof. Okay, when you go off to college, you can play. You can go do whatever you want to do. So I just want to also say that you don't have to budge, because I do understand all of the fears and concerns you have about, everything that Mary is sharing, everything that we're now discovering about this high contact sport and the long-term effects, and once again, also the injuries that can occur in the amateur years of one's hobby, experience of football, yet alone their professional experience of football. So if you need time to just continue to think through that, or you feel, because how old is your son?
He's 15.
Okay, he's 15. So, if you want, hell, if you feel he's at an age of accountability and you feel, or when he's 16, he can play, or if you feel like there is an age where even under your roof that you can allow him to make that choice, I would say the alternative would be to just show him everything. Like, okay, this is why I don't want you playing football. And if you're going to do it, I want to expose you to this first so that you can be fully informed about everything that could be, everything that can be. And so I would show him, what could happen to his body, what this can look like in 20 years and 30 years and 40 years. I would allow him to hear the experiences that are online or that have been chronicled about ex-football players who have had their experiences with trauma to the brain, etc. So just give him the good, the bad, and the ugly, so that that he is, fully, truly informed and has really internalized that information. And if you feel like he is at an age of accountability and you want to give him that right, then I think that will probably be the lesser of the two evils. Is, I'm going to give him that choice, and I know he's informed, and it's his path.
Yeah, I've done all of that, and we're going to move on from it so we can get to some more to Iyanla. But I definitely did all of that. And I just said, okay, look how the universe is working. I'm so glad that, and I don't want him to hear me saying that, but it was a sigh of relief. Although I'm willing to compromise, right? There was a sigh of relief that when they said he cannot play at this high school, I said, okay, thank you, God. So, the alternative is flag football. And he don't want to do flag football. But I said, listen, this is the alternative. But there are more, because I don't even want, the stereotypical will be a rapper, be a football player. I'm just so turned off as a parent, because there's more. And I would like to see our children and our people as a whole, I would like to see them go into other genres of the world versus sports and entertainment. We're much more than that. We are needed in other spaces. And so I'm like, okay, although I'm willing to compromise, I'm like, I know that ultimately, because I'm always willing to compromise in a sense of stepping out of my ego as a parent, I know the universe is ultimately going to guide me.
Absolutely.
And that's the assurance that I always have. So I know he's not gonna always because no child, we all been there. We didn't always feel like our parents was fair. Even as good as our parents were to us, some of us, we always could find some area where we like, they suck. And I'm okay with my son feeling like I suck. I'm just not okay with, like, I can't be emotionally blackmailed. I want to make that very clear. I'm just not okay with the extreme change in the behavior. But I also understand if I've done all I personally can, I mean, like, really examining myself, which parents we should do often, again, because there's always room for improvement. But when you know that you truly have
And
exhausted all
anybody
of that,
in power should practice self-reflection.
right? But when you truly know that you have exhausted every option that is known to you, then it is okay. You are a human being, and we don't have all the answers, and that is okay.
Conscious, I'd also like to respond, and Rumors and Tea, I'd like to respond to a comment that Kiki Spencer, I believe Kiki left in the chat. It was already in my mind, so I think Kiki read my mind. Rumors and Tea, I would like to give you my email. I'll just put it down in the chat. I would like to reach out to my brother and see if I can connect my brother with your son so that they can talk.
I would appreciate that.
Okay.
I really would. Thank you.
Okay. You're
Thank
welcome.
you for that, Mary.
You're welcome, Conscious.
Okay, and we're gonna be praying for light and love for your family too, Mary. Now, I definitely want to get you ladies' thoughts about Iyanla's take on Black mothers, which I know we kind of touched on. What has been y'all experience of y'all's mothers, and just what do y'all think about, like childhood trauma and Black moms and this kind of complexity with they being our heroes on one hand, and then they're being this villainous also experience there as well?
I'll start. My mother, for all of me and my 3 siblings, childhoods, all the way into our adulthood, was completely identified with her masculinity. She was an extraordinary provider. I definitely experienced the expression that Black women raise their daughters and love their sons. She actually had disparaging beliefs about women. So I realized as a child that I was like, wow, my mother's a male chauvinist. That's what we called it back in the day. And my father was also in the household, and my mother took it upon herself to become the primary breadwinner. Yes, Thomas. I'm very into the fully integrated divine masculine and divine feminine. And what I didn't realize at the time is that my mother, in a way, was setting an example for both very empowered femininity, but also toxic masculinity, but really patriarchy, the conditioning that you've already described, Conscious. And so I don't associate masculinity with patriarchy. I won't even, masculinity is sacred. It is necessary. It is essential. And patriarchy ain't got shit to do with masculinity. And this patriarchy got everybody out here fucked up. So it was very hard because I butted heads with her a lot because I was a lot like her. And I was raised with my 2 younger brothers. We were very close in age. So I always say I was conditioned as a boy for the first 12 years of my life. And I experienced confusion about that. And at the same time, my mother did amazing things, and she really cultivated our dreams. So it was really a mixed bag. And I really could not develop a real kind of friendship with her until I left the house and I became a woman myself. So it was I very much resonate with what Iyanla shared. My mother was a great father, and maternal instinct is not innate. She always needed a lot of help from family members and from the village, especially when we were very young. Like, she was making some real, like, looking back, me and my brothers are like, what the hell? What was she doing when she had this man come into our house who was secretly, while my father was there, because my mother ran the household in every way, and he was secretly giving my brothers alcohol, and then he would tickle them, quote unquote, tickle them. And yet I remember as a child, our parents refused to leave me and my sister alone with this man. So why were my brothers, who were the youngest, allowed to be alone with this man?
Right.
So yes, it definitely resonates. I've gotten to the point where I appreciate and acknowledge both of my parents for the things that they did really, really well. And I also hold them accountable for, it was very extreme. Either they did things at a very high level, or the bar was set in hell. It was real bipolar. It was real confusing. The community thought of us as like the Cosby Show. My father was a dentist. My mother was an attorney. And I was like, not for real though, until, now I'm like, yeah, with all the stuff about Bill Cosby. But I used to say, yeah, if you were the Cosby Show on crack, like the image looks real pretty from the outside, but when you go behind closed doors, it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. But yeah, I just say
it's
that.
Like acne underneath all the makeup and foundation.
Honey, it's like the fact that you have not taken a shower in 10 days, but you're trying to spray some cologne over that funk. So I definitely experienced that. And it's really complicated. And I will say that with both of my parents having been transitioned, my mother is the one who has definitely much more ascended than my father has. Yeah, they both came from intergenerational trauma, and it was mixed. We got the mix of the trauma with the blessings and the legacy. But my mother was the man of the house. She was the man of my household.
Do you think, Mary, what is your general take on gender roles? Do you think that that's something that is working at this time, where now there's more equality between men and women in terms of job opportunity and economics and entrepreneurship, etc., and women are holding their own in this society and rising in rank and in education and into prominent positions? Or do you think that gender roles need to remain in place but need to be upgraded, or just obliterated altogether, or somewhere in between?
I think something in between. I think the key part is really choice. I think and I think everyone across the gender spectrum should be able to have the full access to the choice in how we want to live our lives. I think that a key step is that, yes, women, we can go out and get jobs. Up through my mother's generation, my grandmother wasn't able to do that. You couldn't even get a job as a woman and be self-sufficient up until the 60s. You had to be attached to a man. So, you couldn't open your own bank account. You couldn't open your own credit card. And I saw my mother thrive and excel because of those opportunities, and even how she raised me and my sister. Well, what I think is, in part, certain things haven't caught up with the changes in terms of opening up what's actually being possible. And I think what we're coming more and more towards is to integration. I think what that integration looks like, and what I mean is integrating the sacred masculine and the feminine across the spectrum, is that there is also a lot of backlash when you have this kind of transformation. And that always comes with any kind of real changes. I think that we're going to get to a point, and the younger generations are for sure leading the way, where it's really more so about integrating and it is about fluidity. I think that as Black people, we've always had very different gender norms from the mainstream gender norms, not just from the ancestral practices on the continent of Africa, because the shit that the colonizers imposed over here was Victorian England. Okay, that was some bullshit. I'm not trying to be up in Victorian England. And we never really have been, and we were not able to be in the US because of chattel slavery. The families were not even able to stay together. They were being sold off. Men and women could not legally get married because they were legally classified as property. And we already know that for white feminism, they were fighting to not just have to stay in the household and do unpaid labor. Black women have always worked. So I think it's a matter of more fully realizing the full range of choices and having people to be able to live a life of dignity, of abundance, whatever their choice is. If you want, the conventional, traditional arrangement and you want to have the kids and you want to be able to stay at home, I think we should set it up so that's possible. But I think we should also set it up so that all of the different choices are possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I got another question for you, but I'm gonna ask y'all that after I get rumors to chime in on gender roles and how you feel about it, rumors and T.
I mean, I have to really echo Mary's her statements because when I look at gender roles, I had a balance in my childhood. Always there were no gender roles in my upbringing. My mom, even with her husband, I have to agree, my mom gave a balance. There was a time where she would be quote unquote the father figure, although my stepfather was there and my dad was prevalent in my life. But she would still do quote unquote the things that the men were supposed to do. But she also had, displayed the roles of what a wife or a woman was supposed to do. So, and the same was with the men in my family. Like, there's always been a balance. It's never been, men are the ones to do the heavy lifting or, the fixing and, going out and earning, income and, all of that. Like, it has always been a balance in my life. So I don't know any other way. And I'm raising my sons to do the same exact thing. Because the reality is, the times we live in, you have to possess um, the basic skills of survival. There really is no such thing. There's no balance if you're succumbing to what this society says are the roles of each gender. Like, there's no balance there. It's not it just doesn't work, and I'm actually happy about that because I think that when we place ourselves in these situations or based upon what the Western society says is the role of a woman and the role of a man, then you hold yourself hostage. You stunt yourself and you put yourself at the mercy of others. And that ain't fun, So I definitely agree with Mary across the board. And I do think that it the pushback that we get is kind of really crazy in a sense because when I hear like men in the mano space when they talk about a woman says she don't need a man, she want to do everything, yada yada yada, it kind of like bugs me out because women have had, especially Black women, have had to take on the responsibilities of what quote unquote society says are the roles of a man. Like, they've had to do that from, like she said, since cattle slavery. Like, we had to get out in the fields and work and everything else that a man had to do. Like, we were not allowed to have the quote unquote whatever the soft life that definition mean. We haven't been able to have that as Black women anyway. So, it's kind of like crazy as hell to me, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of have a similar experience. Like, I didn't grow up with seeing kind of like explicit demonstrations of gender roles. Like the like, for instance, like in my household, both my parents worked. My parents were kind of interesting because they were like traditional, but they were also like very like, I like to call it a casual traditionalist because they were they were traditional, but kind of not really. Because there were definitely times that, like, I don't know, the system in my household was just more so about my parents just worked together. It wasn't really about man and woman more so than it was about partnership. Now, my parents definitely had a dysfunctional marriage and relationship, and there was abuse and negligence, and my stepdad abused drugs and alcoholism, and there was all of that turmoil and infidelity. But in terms of like the structure of their partnership, what didn't seem to be largely informed by gender more so than it did about just understanding that they were partners and it was going to take the both of them to create the life that they envisioned for each other and for me and my brother. So everything was swapped. You know, my stepdad, he cleaned, he cooked, he, you know, was very skilled in domestic chores. My mother was also very skilled in domestic chores. She also worked. She always worked. There was never a time where my stepdad was just the sole provider and she was just home barefoot and breastfeeding us. That was never the case. Like, they both just equally contributed to the household. And that was kind of largely reflected throughout my family as well. But where I did see the gender role patriarchal influence at was that, like, my grandmother and my grandfather and my aunts and uncles, like, there was this idea of what was expected out of women emotionally, what was expected out of men mentally, etc. Like, there was a sense of modesty that women felt they had to adhere to. There was also a sense of kind of respecting a man's authority. Like, even though y'all could contribute equally, but ultimately, like, allow the man to lead ultimately. And my grandmother was more traditional in that sense because I used to hear stories about how, like, the kids would have to wait to eat until my grandfather came home, and he would have to have first digs at the food and have the big piece of chicken. And once he indulged and he was served, then the rest of the family ate. My grandfather was known to rule and parent from a fear-based place. So he ruled with an iron fist and he used intimidation. He was also abusive to my grandmother as well. And my grandma was more so the traditional feminine entity, the nurturer, you know, soft-spoken, reasonable, while my grandfather was allowed to be kind of more hard edge and the disciplinary one. So it was just very interesting just watching all of that. I would say that in the 21st century, I love that the gender role thing is being kind of muddied up and kind of deteriorating, and we have an opportunity to not make it about gender more so than we have to have the opportunity to make it about actual partnership, which is really what it is. And I also have no problem with people upholding traditional gender role dynamics. I just want everybody to have the option to be okay in whatever works for them. So for those where gender roles work, that's cool. And for those who believe in the reversal, there are men who want to stay at home, da 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 da, because the woman is the high earner. Fine, like, whatever works for the couple and their economics and their particular situation, like, that's what it can be. And I love, as Mary, she used the term fluid, that there's kind of this fluidity, and we have all of these kind of alternatives available to us. And I love that women get to do it without men now. I know that scares men as well. And men don't know who they are now that women can do for what they used to have historically depend on men for. And once again, it gives men the opportunity to really redefine what it means to be a man and to focus on what it means to actually love a woman. You know, now that a woman can provide for herself, men get to master the art of now loving a woman. What does that mean? What does emotional intimacy mean? What does also making sure that your woman is also a recipient of the sex, which used to largely revolve around the pleasure and fulfillment of a man. Men get the opportunity to like focus on that aspect of relationship in this era instead of just thinking that women are trying to make them extinct and irrelevant, more so than it gives men, especially heterosexual men, the opportunity to master the things that they have historically dropped the ball on as it relates to the way they relate to women and what they bring to the table for women spiritually, sexually, emotionally, and mentally. My second question to y'all is, because I keep going back to this, like, Black moms and single moms. What do y'all want y'all mothers to understand? What do y'all want broken Black single mothers to understand as it relates to their kids having been injured and needing that closure and needing that conversation in order for the relationship to be well? Because my attitude always is, we don't need a conversation and we don't have to talk about what has happened if we're going to go our separate ways, because it doesn't really matter. I can heal without you. I don't need your answers. I don't need your explanations. I don't need any of that. If we're going to be in a relationship, yeah, we got to talk about the shit that happens, and we got to talk about whatever has, if there's been breakdown in trust, if there has been trauma, if there has been betrayal, because the relationship is going to have to exist upon love and honesty and security and safety. And if there's been conflict and there's been compromises about those things, then there's no way we're going to be able to have a working relationship without addressing those injuries and ensuring that there's going to be a better pathway in place going forward. What would y'all say is the posture that a single mom who tried to do her best or who fucked around and traumatized her kids need to understand about what it means to be wrong and what it means, or better yet, what it means to be accountable?
What I would say is really stating in a different way what you were saying. I would say that I am coming to my mother as a single mother or in partnership who still functioned in a lot of ways like a single mother. I want to have this conversation with you because I love you and because I want to continue to have a relationship with you. And I want to have it be one where, for me to really be able to show up in this relationship and do more than superficial chatter or coming around once every blue moon, it means being honest. You know, I would say, I would share what I appreciate about what my mother did. And I would say, look, there's also some healing that's needed, and it's not meant to take away everything that she did. It's not to demonize her or judge her. It's to say you're human. You know, if parents were supposed to be perfect, then no two-leggeds would have children. It would be a bunch of angels having kids. But like, we can't, if you want to be in relationship with me, like I want to be in relationship with you, I really just need you first to listen and hold the space and hear me out. And I think also what I've learned over time is, in some ways, I'm not sure exactly how we'll go about saying this. I'm like also giving my mother an opportunity to say, what is it that you appreciate about our relationship, the relationship with me, and what are some things that I did that, also caused you pain, and maybe not in the same conversation, but some kind of way opening it up to be a two-way communication and exchange.
Yes.
But to say, like, to lay it out, like, you've got a choice. I love you. I appreciate everything you did for me. And there are some things also that cause tremendous harm and trauma, and that it's not all on you. I just want to speak to the part that you play. And if you want to have a relationship with me, this is what I'm asking of you. And if you don't, then that's your choice too.
Sounds almost like the way that Scrappy did it. When it
Yeah.
came to Mama D, he said, "Look, you held it down.
Mm-hmm.
You did your thing, but there was a but,
Mm-hmm.
or and you did your thing, and there was also this, and I have to agree with that, because one of the things that led me to forgiving my mother, because I was a mama's boy, like, to hell with my daddy, I was a damn mama's boy. I don't know whether that was because I was clear about my masculinity, but I had a big chunk of the divine feminine that was personifying itself through me, and I was aware of it. And so I looked to my mother as the so-called feminine being, to get insight and to learn from that. So I think on an unconscious level, that also is what contributed to me being a mama's boy, and really kind of yielding to her and looking for her love and looking for her knowledge and looking for her protection, is because of my own femininity unraveling and needing guidance and affirmation. But it took me to understand and also see the little girl in my own mother in order to overcome my own issues with her. I think a lot of times as young people with parents, we are raised to have unrealistic expectations in our parents, a lot like they have unrealistic expectations in us. It can go both ways, and that both parties can lack actually acknowledging the humanity in one another. Like, we don't see our parents as humans, we see them as superheroes, and we see them as people who should know, and we have these very escalated, overarching expectations out of them without realizing that they are in fact just people. Now, our parents also contribute to this delusional expectation, because they oftentimes will act perfect and act holier than thou, and actually unconsciously play into these expectations and this pedestalization that they don't realize until the end they actually don't have the means to live up to. And it actually would have been healthier for them to be more humanistic, because it would have allowed them to have been more honest and more humbled and more transparent and more relatable and sensible, had they been people and been humans to us, instead of just exclusively yielding to this authoritarian role. But it wasn't until I got older that I realized that my mom, she was just a girl, and that what I received from her was a product of her own experience of being a person in the system, being a woman in the system, having parents, and that her own highs and lows shaped who she was. But before I was able to see her as a human being, that was largely blotted out by just this idealistic expectation and version of my mother. And it was actually very relieving to finally see her as just a human being. It was actually, I don't know how to explain it, other than that it was just a relief, a notable relief, or like an exhale, and finally being able to just see her as just a woman, and as a person who also had a childhood, a person who also had been taught a certain way, a person who had been misguided about things, a person who had also had her fair share of injuries. And that grief dissipated because of, or that tension between her and I dissipated through me yielding to compassion. So, rumors and tea, like, what would you want single Black mothers who try to do their best to know as it relates to accountability and the injuries that their kids may have occurred despite their intentions?
Man, I can only echo again what you said. Honestly, it's all about humanizing someone else. I realized, because I actually did just about everything I could. I separated myself. I went a whole 2.5 year period estranged from pretty much everybody in my family, with the exception of my great grandmother. Um, and every conflict my mom and I had, um, I would go to her and I would basically criticize. Every conversation would always start off with me bringing up where she failed me at. And I've said this before, it took me becoming a parent. The very moment that I decided that I was going to keep my oldest son, it was like my consciousness opened up. I was so afraid not to repeat the cycle of that dysfunctional mother and daughter relationship, because I never knew my mom's story.
Yeah.
But I would hear the criticisms throughout, family talking and criticizing her. And then people started telling me her story. And I saw a pattern. And I was like, wow. And I was afraid. I didn't know whether I was going to have a daughter or a son. But I was so afraid that I was going to carry on that same toxicity as a parent, that I immediately stopped seeing her as a mother, because I knew the flawed human being I was. I knew that I had a bunch of trauma that was not healed. I knew that I was acting it out in the most toxic and dysfunctional manners. And I wanted to correct that within myself. And so I stopped looking at my mom as my mother. Just what you said, literally just what you said. I really stopped looking at her as my mom and saw her as a human being. And I started going to her as a human being and as a woman. And instead of, because I felt like she never told me her story. She obviously, I don't know if she was ever going to tell me without me coming to her, asking her. But for some reason, I don't know. I never had a thought pattern of how I'm going to do this. I just know that when I would go to her, I would ask her questions. Because even in my pregnancy, when I was pregnant with my mom, we were estranged. Once I had my son, I immediately went to her for guidance. And I would slip in conversations to ask certain things that was going to lead us into a conversation to talk about her experiences and her childhood and her traumas and her experiences as a married woman. My mom got married at 18 years old. She didn't live no type of life. She had no experience. So those conversations cultivated in helping me see her and actually forgive her in a lot of areas, because I knew that I was not going to be perfect, but I was determined, in order for me to be the good parent I wanted to be, I had to forgive my mom. I knew that it was no way possible that I was going to be able to pour into my children and still harvest the animosity I had towards her for failing me, because I knew that there's going to be times that I'm not going to meet the standards, because we're humans, right? And no one meets every standard we set for them. And I knew that. And with that, gave me so much compassion for her. When I started speaking and acknowledging all the good, because I realized, and a lot of single mothers, I know it's hard because you're criticized. We're criticized as for why the father's not in the house, why the father's not actively involved in the child's life, why he's not contributing in any manner. We're criticized. We're held at a standard like everything falls on us is our fault. And I'm not going to say that we don't add any contribution, but you combine that contribution because it's all battle fatigue, right? So you're automatically going to be defensive because what we go through in our own personal lives, and then to go through that as a parent, on top of having to be responsible for another human being, it makes you automatically defensive. But when you humanize, like someone said earlier in the chat about offering grace, offering grace does not mean that you're giving someone a pass to abuse you. You're just humanized. It allows you to see that person and understand that they're a flawed human being. And that's what I did with my mom. And I promise you, I'm trying not to get teary-eyed, but it was the best decision I could have ever made in my life.
Yeah.
And she became my best friend. There was no pushback. I wished I would have known all the things that I had known once I became a parent when I was young. And I understand it wasn't meant to happen then, because I hate the fact that I went through, like, one of the things I cringe at the most is the fact that I put my hands on my mother. That is something, even though my mom forgave me, and I have partially forgiven myself, I just wish I had the tools to know how to communicate without becoming violent towards my mom. Because the reality was, she was a broken person. And although she should have known better, she did not know better. And there were no tools provided for her.
But Romazenti, the same is true for you. And
right, you
gotta also give yourself every bit, not some of that compassion, because as you said, you only partially forgave yourself, but you got to give yourself the full gamut of that compassion too. That I didn't have the resources or the tools to at that time to do it any differently than the way that I did it.
I'm going to tell you why I said partially, because once I did get the tools, my ego wouldn't allow me to. I was intentional at that point. And like I said, it took me having a child for me to grow the hell up and say, like, because sometimes people are aware of what they're doing.
And that's what I mean. No.
Yeah.
If you couldn't do it, you did not have the tools.
Okay, I could go with that, Conscious.
If you couldn't do it, you did not have the tools. You did not have the tools until you had the tools. And when you finally had the tools, which in your case was the experience of having a child, etc., that gave you the actual power and authority to do it differently. You only had knowledge and intellect about the way you could have did it differently at the time, but you didn't have the power and the authority to actually implement it, and you were consumed by something else. And that's the level of humanity that we have to have for ourselves too, is recognizing that I'm her daughter, she's my mother, but in that moment, me and her were just two people, baby.
I receive that. I absolutely receive that.
Because I'm just a person and she's just a person.
Right. But it helped. Okay. It felt so good. Like I when I talk to you guys about actually being healed from your trauma, the release of it, it is so uplifting. Because I can tell you one thing, if you can heal your childhood trauma, baby, you can heal anything. Nothing, because nothing brings us down, holds us, and keeps us stagnant like childhood trauma. And I tell you, like, it was just so beautiful. That lady became my best friend, my companion. I didn't need a man for nothing, not sexually. Like, it was just so, and I just want people to have that. Anyone that has trauma with their parents, be it your mother or your father, but real, like, especially with your mom, because they carry you in the womb. But if that trauma you have with your parents, it is so stagnant.
It's a cloud.
It is so dark and so heavy. And I don't care where you go, even to the point of separating yourself. Because I must admit, those 2.5 years that I wasn't around them, I was living good. But there was I just knew I was never going to ever go back into a relationship with my family.
Yeah.
And I promise you, although life was good for me, I was still suffering. There was a yearning for my mom. There was this yearning that I could, like, it was like, I can't even explain it. It was like just this hole. Nothing could fill the hole up. And man, like when I came back around, I knew it was going to be work. And I thank God too for Iyanla, because when Iyanla started fixing that show, Fix My Life, and we would sit down collectively as a family, and we would have watch parties. And we would sit down and everybody would be opening up. I mean, not just the women, but the men in my family. Everybody would be opening up. Everybody would be talking about this and that and everything. It was so profound. And man, like, to know that I'm not the only one that feels this way. I'm not the only one that experienced this. And to hear, like, because my grandmother, I put her on a pedestal. She was the first mother I ever knew. Even though my mother was there, I thought my grandmother was my mother. She was so nurturing and loving to me. That's the version that I received, that I had of her. My mom didn't have that version. And so to hear them speak about their own experiences and the trauma, man, conscious, it was just like, dang, how can I hold anybody at a standard that I wasn't willing to live up myself? Like, how can I be mad at this woman? But she really did the best she could. She absolutely did the best she could. And I started to acknowledge that. And I even got my siblings on board. At the end of the day, my oldest brother, he and I were like the black sheep. He still held on. And right now, he cannot hear. He struggles with my mother's transition. I'm the only one that has dreams of my mom. She visits me all the time. He struggles with her absence, her physical absence. And that's because he couldn't let go of his trauma with her. And I tell him all the time, you have to see the good. Yes, acknowledge the bad, but acknowledge more of the good, because the reality is there was someone else situation that was worse than ours. I don't want him to ignore his trauma. But I don't, like Iyanla was saying about when her daughter passed. I thought that was something very, very impactful, to feel the pain, but you don't have to stay in the pain. Allow yourself to feel it and move on. And just move on. Like, forgiveness is one of the greatest tools that the Creator could have ever given us.
Absolutely.
It has nothing to do with the other individual. It has everything to do with us, for our well-being.
And it's the actual posture of the Creator, which is why the universe is expanding and life is fruitful and giving, because the divine is in a state of uninterrupted expansion and peace and forward moving. And that's why life continues to give. That's why nature continues to give. Nature's givingness, Mother Earth's givingness, life's givingness, and reproductiveness is a physical, symbolic representation of the uninterrupted posture of God itself. God is never in a state of unforgiveness and a state of anger and rage, but everlasting, always available, eternal, unconditional, flowing love. And that's what we get to experience when we forgive. As Rumas said, we actually are experiencing divine posture and divinity. This is the access to divinity that Christ was making available when Christ instructed his followers to turn the other cheek, to forgive, to return back to the posture, to make yourself available to all of the resources within the universe that are available to every last single one of us at every given moment in time, if we are willing to be in a state of and hold a posture of receptivity. And you can't do that if you are clogged and hoarding all of your negative life experiences. And there's a statement that you guys can chime in on, giving y'all's opinions about if you want to, that makes me cringe. And I understand it emotionally, but it also is counterproductive when you understand the metaphysical makeup of reality. When people say, you can't tell me when to get over it, or you can't tell a person when to move on. And I get it, because I know that statement is birthed out of a attempt to give people the space to experience their experience and to feel how they feel without judgment, without shame, without condemnation, without agenda. However, you cannot heal if you have not decided on the ending. So even when I am grieving, I have had to learn that myself, to give myself the opportunity to feel what I feel, to be sad, to be hurt, to be angry, to experience my true emotions. But in the back of my mind, my agenda has to be set up to feel those things in order to move on from those things, not to feel those things to become that anger, to become that rage, to become shaped in those energies, but understanding that I have to travel those energies and those states of consciousness and those emotions in order to get to my center again, because my center has been disrupted by whatever the traumatic event and experience that has happened in my life that has disrupted my centeredness and my peace, not avoiding those feelings. So I want people to understand that, baby, yes, you do need to, in the back of your mind, have a intent to grieve. I mean, to grieve with the intent to move forward and to heal. That you have to actually set your intention on that healing, because if you don't, your ego will identify with the pain. If you're not intentional about healing, your ego will create an identity about the emotions that you are not hell-bent on giving time to, but not making a permanent residence in your spirit to. Go ahead, Rumus.
So that's the reason why my last conversation with my brother, and it's been months, we had, when my mom passed, there was very limited communication. I saw that he was stuck in this toxic emotions. Like his emotions, like everything was so negative.
Yeah.
And I made a conscious decision to cut him off, and it hurt because although my family was very toxic, we were always close knit, right? No matter what we went through, we always found our ways back to each other, and we would move through our issues in a healthy manner. And I didn't want, it was just he, myself, and my sister, my baby sister. And I knew what my mom had, wanted from us. And so I struggled with just initially the first 2 weeks, I struggled really bad. And then I realized that it is not my place to put myself in a situation because energies transfer. I did not want to go back to that dark hole. And so I said, okay, I knew that personally it had nothing to do with me. This was his own journey. And so I gave him the space. And we went 2 years without any communication.
Wow.
And that was hard for me because my brother passed 2019, my mom passed 2021. And it was like, this is during the pandemic. So it was just really, really hard to have these things. They both were young. in age, in my opinion, so it was really hard. And what we have always done collectively as a family, when there was death, we will always come together and we will always be a support to one another. And it was just me and my sister, and she has her own baggage and struggles with the grieving process, right? And because I've always been the strong one, but for whatever reason, I've never looked at death. And even once I healed with the trauma with my mom, I didn't look at life the same way. I never wanted to stay in a place of any type of turmoil for a long period of time. So I always gave myself unconsciously, always gave myself an expiration date. Like there's a due date for everything in my life. And so recently, when we had started back talking last year, up until about March, Aprilish, I saw that I felt he was still in that space. He was not expressing that. But then he started to express it, Conscious. And I said to him, I said, when are you going to get over it? And why did I say that? And I even questioned, I had my sister, we were all on a three-way. I asked her privately in a text message, is my verbiage correct? Am I not saying it the right way? Did I say it in an offensive way? Because he immediately started going off. You don't tell me da. And I said, no, but eventually you have to move on because life goes on. Now, unless you want to stay in this space, then all I can do is respect it until you move out of this space. I don't want to have any interaction with you. Because for me, I know energies transfer.
Yeah.
And we haven't spoken since. So for me, I know that he's not in a place where he wants to let it go. And I don't think that is good for him, but I'm okay. I miss him, but I'm okay with not having any interaction. Because again, like you said earlier about your piece, I earned this piece.
Yeah.
And it was literally independently. No one else helped me get to this space. So I refuse to allow anyone to help me lose the piece that I've earned. And so I've made not peace, but I'm okay with him not having the desire to move on.
Yeah. Contentment and acceptance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And could I speak to Conscious and Rumor? Because
yes.
So everything and what you all are sharing is the cardinal spiritual law, the beauty of the divine is that we have free will. It's all about choice. It's all about choice. And I think it's so deep that, Rumors, you were literally asking, when are you going to let this go? Because that is it in a nutshell, because it's a choice to hold on, to let go. Forgiveness in Aramaic, which is the original language of the Bible, means let go. And I think what's so deep about this, what you're saying, Conscious, and what you've been saying, Rumors, is that, for example, the choice being to strike that balance, to choose to feel our feelings, to choose to go through the grieving process, and to choose also to have that date, that expiration date, to plant that seed of that intent. I am doing this.
It's a connection problem going on, Mary.
Oh, you can't hear me?
It's kind of breaking up a little bit.
Okay.
And you said stuff, so I just want to make sure that you heard.
Okay. How am I now, Conscious?
Okay. It's sounding better, I think.
Oh. Let's testing 1, 2, 3.
Okay, yeah, you're sounding better.
Okay. So another example of choice is, remember when you were saying part of the key to your healing and that relationship with your mother was that when you had a child, you had to grow up. The truth is, you chose to grow up. You chose to step up. I have had the honor of working with so many people's children over the years, and I've seen it in my own family, with my own siblings, with my students' families. That is a choice. And it's so important to give yourself credit that that was a choice, because everybody doesn't choose to grow up. Everyone doesn't choose to grow up. And the last thing I'll say about this is, I was working with one of my healers, And he just straight up told me, I'm just recapping what you said, because I was kind of getting my panties in a bunch over something. He said, Mary, everyone has a choice to be low vibrational. Everybody has a right to choose to be high vibrational or anything in between. You get to choose what to do about it. Like rumors saying, look, as long as you're bringing that energy, then I'm not going to deal with that energy swap. That was the key to freedom for me. I was like, guess what? Everybody really does have a right to a choice. If they want to choose to be low vibrational and stuck and stagnant, and that's their choice. And then I'm going to leave them where they are.
I made a post on Instagram that says, if you don't intentionally create your future, your mind will recreate whatever it has already lived from your past.
That's deep.
This is why a lot of people, Mary and Rumas in chat, feel that they're cursed. They think they're cursed. Why is it that I keep experiencing the same shit over and over and over? Because going back to In Vogue, you have not freed and rearranged your mind. You have set out new goals to overcome the things you don't want to no longer experience in life, but you have not changed your actual state of consciousness to accommodate the life that you're wanting for yourself, because people are under this false impression that life is happening to them instead of because of them and through them. You have to change your state of consciousness. And this is the unfortunate, unconscious self-sabotage that a lot of people who like to hoard pain, this is the state they lock themselves into. And then wonder why that pain never goes away. And then wonder why there keep being things that manifest in your experience that arouse and or trigger and that constantly remind you of that pain. And it's because you're hoarding it. And because the law of attraction, the law of magnetism, does not have a consciousness, it means that it doesn't differentiate between whether what you're holding on to is better or if it's for your worse. It doesn't make those type of judgments. It only responds to the energetic quality of the emotions and the thoughts that are a part of your core makeup. So if you are in your core makeup holding on to things that are negative and that are self-deprivating, then the law of attraction translates that as you must want more of this thing. And therefore, it gives you more of that thing. And a lot of people think because they, on the surface, are saying, I want different, I want better, but have not actually changed not only their mentality, but have not also changed their feeling, then their reality ultimately continues to be a reflection or a conglomerate of triggers that keep them centered in familiar heartbreak and familiar betrayal and familiar sadness. Whatever you're not intentional about, your consciousness will just use whatever already is. God forbid you don't want what has been. But if you don't intentionally course correct and you don't intentionally, as the scriptures talk about, the renewal of your mind, let that mind that be in Christ also be in me, the rebirth of your state of consciousness, the rebirth of your inner self, the re-realized, the actualized greater truth that all things start in the mind. A man is what he thinketh. You think of, so it shall be. Live and think as though it already is. Literally, this is all the magic of the scriptures. All this magic, all this spiritual lawing, all of this, the science of consciousness, the science of reality, is in even traditional religion, cloaked in religious language and concepts, but metaphysics is all there. So no, your healing is not going to fall out of the sky. And this other false impression that because someone else did it, I'm not going to get over it until they make it right, because they made the mess. When that also is scientifically it's logically incongruent with the way you live every other part of your life where there's a mess. If someone got into your car and made a mess in your vehicle, you're not going to ride around with that damn mess until they are able to clean it up. You're not going to ride around with their throw up and with their Wendy's cup and with their Pepsi and with their milkshake spilt over until they can clean it up. Or if someone comes into your home and breaks a vase and a vase, you're not going to leave the glass and those shards there just because someone else did it. No, you're going to clean it up. Why? Because even if they're going to leave, even if, and though this is their mess, it's going to be a danger to you for that mess, and it's going to be an inconvenience to you for that mess to be there. So we get hell-bent on the wrong shit and allow our egos and our pain bodies to seduce us into holding on and making an identity and clinging to the trauma and the things that have hurt us and afflict us, not realizing that in the long run, we are really setting ourselves up for continual failure and a secular experience of life that is unflattering. And as Mary said, and Ruma said, the power of choice. Yes, be authentic to your experience and your pain and your feelings. Do your shadow work, which is all about acknowledging your hurt, acknowledging the way you were made to feel, the way that you were treated, grieving and having compassion for that little child, that unresolved teenager, that broken woman, that broken man within yourself, with the intent, once again, of clarity, with the intent of becoming better and extracting the data from what you are now able to be honest about, and then using that data that you extract from your shadow to empower your light body, to free your light body. This is what the whole traveling through the valley of the shadow of death is all about. The valley is a symbolic representation of the shadow self, of the trauma body. And fear not. There's data and revelation and wisdom and that grief. So it is necessary that we acknowledge it. It is necessary that if to nobody else, we have the honest conversation with ourselves and between us and our creator about that which has afflicted us and injured us and hurt us and despaired us. And then we have faith, as Iyanla spoke about, in ourselves, have faith in our children that they can move through this, that they can deal with the reality of themselves or of other people or of life, and to know that if we do the work and we commit to the work and we set out an intention to be well, that we can go through some of the darkest and most painful of experiences in our lives and come out transformed and made for the better. There's not a single thing in my life that I fucking regret. All the pain and hurt that drove me to not want to be alive at times, to not want to be a human being at times, to throw in the towel at times, that because I found my faith and I traveled through and got to the other side and saw God realized in me and my resilience and my divinity and the other side, and I just put forth that faith in self. That stuff made me a greater person, and it continues to make me a greater person. But you do have to be honest about being a hurt person and an angry person and a betrayed person and a person who has also done the hurting in order to be a better person. You can't get there but through transparency and honesty. So no shame. No shame. Shame is disabilitating, and there's no redemption in shame. Guilt has redemptive qualities. There's redemption in guilt, but shame is completely disabilitating. No shame. Humanize other people, humanize yourself, and give yourself the opportunity and give yourself the grace to be a better person.
Well, I'm going to tell you, your words have definitely helped me to forgive myself wholeheartedly.
Amen.
I think that is very important
Yes.
Because we always look and want for others to forgive us, and we rarely forgive ourselves. So that is very important.
Yes.
And I appreciate it. I really do. I appreciate you and Mary, for real.
No, I love y'all, and I appreciate y'all too. And last but not least, I wanted to talk, if you guys can give your feedback about polygamy and monogamy and just where y'all are, like in y'all's own life right now, where y'all are in your own dating experience. Like, where are y'all with dating? Where are y'all with what y'all require from a partner?
Child, I'm gonna jump in. I was just talking with a girlfriend about this. So I have been for a number of years in a relationship where I was sharing someone, and I'm with you. I've done it all kinds of ways. Now it needs to be done openly with transparency and no deception. And I've really thought about this. It's really interesting because I actually, depending on where I am, I don't take issue with sharing someone. A full disclosure, once in my life, I had a little bit of overlap between a couple of partners. And what was really interesting is that my body, I think it's called cathecting, that I had kind of been with a new partner. And when the old partner came back around, it was like I was repulsed by them. So I learned something about myself. I learned it's something about the way that it doesn't even have to do with conditioning. But for me, companionship and connection and intimacy takes a lot of different forms. I am single right now. I have been really focused on really my relationship with myself and falling in love with myself. And I do want someone to share that with. Now, I want to try out. I have done monogamy most of my life, but I haven't been restricted to monogamy. Right now, I definitely, because of how busy I am and my energy, and I'm really busy, I would like I don't have the energy or time for more than one person. And I would like to really explore where I am now as being at this point in my healing life, with seeing about what can it look like to form that kind of a connection with one person and to possibly have a life partner. But having said that, I've really experienced a really wide range of relationships. And I will say, I treat relationships and the dating apps like thrifting. I love thrifting. And that could be a whole book, but it's just like I go in, I'm very open. I'm really full of wonder. I love the exploration itself for its own sake. And then when I find something, it has to meet a lot of different criteria. I'm like, I really have to love this to take this home with me. So I don't want to just settle for something. So I'm treating it like I do when I thrift. But I'm with you. I've tried a lot of different things. And if I've really been honest with myself, I've been in situations that have been non-monogamous. My issue has been that it needs to be on the up and up, and it needs to be upfront. But I actually don't have any issues with that. It just needs to be on the up and up. And I'm just at a point where I want to try something monogamous and one-on-one, because I'm more of a one-on-one relationship kind of person across all of my relationships, because I like to go deep sea diving. So we'll see.
Okay, so question is, if you were to meet like, somebody that just really made you feel juicy and just so saucy, like, this is such a delicious person, and you had this great bond and y'all were having, and y'all have these quality, substantive, deep engagements of one another, but they are poly or polygamous, would that be a deal breaker for you?
No, I would be very open to exploring that. That would not be a deal breaker. We would, I'm more so, I don't want to get the banana pox. I'm more concerned about all that stuff more so. And even for my partner, like, I'm like, no, like I will get tested before I'm with anyone else. I want the person to get tested. It's more so about that, because I have lived my life without any incurable packages, and I don't want to get any incurable packages at this point. But that would not be a deal breaker for me.
Okay, got it. Nice. Okay, and another question is, if you don't mind me asking, and you can tell me to mind my business, your sexual preference?
My sexual preference is definitely cisgender men. I just consider myself hetero, but not normative. I have been attracted to very, very masculine women. Very attracted. I'm not attracted to being with another femme person.
Yes.
Like, it just doesn't do anything for me. And I also, I'm interested in trying out a little bit on the BDSM spectrum. Ooh. I'm technically, though, more so what you would consider a switch. Sometimes I like to be the one dominating. And I got confused about that when I was a child, because I thought, well, what does this mean? Does this mean I'm a lesbian? Because I'm not acting like a girl is supposed to act sexually. And sometimes I want someone to spank me and pull my hair. So I'm open to it. Yeah. But yeah, I do. I love masculinity, and what I love more than, and also I love androgyny. I feel like I've always been a very androgynous person, obviously very femme presenting, obviously, but like growing up with people like Grace Jones and David Bowie and his Iggy Pop, Iggy Stardust, and Annie Lennox of the Eurythmics, and Prince. Oh my God. I mean, child, Prince, please,
that's father.
Everything.
You're gonna have to watch that. That's my baby daddy. Don't.
Hello, baby. You can have me up in there with Jamie Foxx and anybody else who got is caught under the spell, honey. I'll be up there with the Mystices and everybody else up in there with Prince.
That part. Okay, I love that. So like, would you consider yourself to be an androphilia woman? A person who is attracted to masculinity?
Yes, I am attracted to masculinity, and then I'm also attracted to androgyny. I think I'm attracted to the integration. My last long-term partnership was with a man who was very, very integrated with his feminine energy. And it was really, and he was also there's something about real strength that is not obnoxious. It's not all up in your face. And other men would be confused by him because they respected him. They admired him. I'm like, no, Jimmy Mack didn't play around. He was just very integrated with his femininity. So I'm getting more and more towards androphilia and also androgynous, just that integration. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. I love that. Okay. Rules and Tea, where are you with dating, and where are you with monogamy, polygamy, etc. at this point in your life? What are you looking for?
I'm single, and I'm enjoying being single. I'm not looking for anything. If something should come my way, because I'm attracted to energies. So it doesn't matter if it's a feminine or masculine. It's literally like my mind. Like, if you can stimulate my mind, that's it. I don't care what you look like, as long as your hygiene is, good and everything. Because it's definitely not about a physical attraction for me. Now, like there is a slight, I'm attracted to people's aesthetic, but it doesn't move me. It's what like emotionally and mentally. But I'm single and I really love being by myself. It is so interesting because I don't think I've ever been in but one monogamous relationship in my entire life.
Yeah.
I've never found, or I never entertained or was involved with one particular person that met the needs that were, that I had desires at the time for. So I've always had multiple partners, some for just the emotional need, some for the physical need. Like it was almost like at one time I used to say I was building a man. I would have 5 or 6 different guys in my life and would
Period.
be dating them all simultaneously. But and that pretty much was like all my life. For
Yeah.
the most part, I was always integral about it. There were the few times that I was not. And what I found is when I was being honest about it, it was more acceptable. I didn't get any pushback. There was no turmoil or anything. So I felt the liberty in just being honest and straight up from like the door.
Yeah.
And man, it was actually, and it still is refreshing or whatever. But I don't personally think that I'm ever going to discover one person for myself. I just don't see that for me, and I'm okay with that because I'm not willing to settle and not receive the things that I need versus what I want. Like so I no longer have that interest. I fulfill most of my needs for myself anyway.
Yeah.
So all that I need is, to be honest, is the emotional stimulation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So if I can't get that, and unfortunately, because now I'm looking like I don't believe, like I've always tell you, I don't believe in labels or whatever. It could be a male, it could be a female, it could be a trans person. Um, it doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah.
I just, when it comes to the monogamy and the cisgender
Yeah.
men, like it's really hard to find one that is emotionally intelligent enough to provide you with the emotional not stability, but whatever emotional needs you need from them.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow. It sounds like there's a lot of transcendence going on this on this panel, everybody. It's a lot of ascension and transcendence, baby.
You know what that comes from though, conscious experience, because I remember when I was like literally like 12 years old, I was attracted to a lot of females, right? And although there was this unspoken,
Yeah.
it was kind of weird. There was this unspoken homophobia around certain people in the family, and I was kind of like afraid to explore it. But when you're a child, you're gonna find a way to explore things. And I would sneak off and explore with certain females, and even with that, right? I was like, oh my God, because I was still attracted to guys. And then I remembered when if one of our family friend, he was, I don't know what he is now, but he at the time he just cross dressed.
Yeah.
I was so turned on by him. By the time I was 16, and he just, I was so turned on by his energy, his character, his confidence. And unfortunately, I didn't have anyone. There was no language. There was no, you know these things. The community at large was not there, and so I didn't really know how to identify. And it took me a long time to understand these things. And I think a lot of people, if they would be honest with themselves, because we were talking about this earlier in the comments, where there was like some pushback. Like a lot of people don't realize you're not in a monogamous relationship anyway. A lot of you're dealing with someone that has multiple partners, and you just don't know it. But
Speak
once you
on it.
discover, then you like, you're freaked out, but you're happy or whatever you want to call it, content until you find out there is others in this relationship. So in total reality, because I don't think that we were created to be monogamous. Now, there's nothing wrong with monogamy. If you can find that and you're fulfilled, good for you. But I don't think that we were created because there's no one set person to provide outside of what we provide for ourselves. There's no one person to provide the needs.
Are you still there, Rumors?
I put a pin in it.
Yeah, I think most people historically have not been in monogamous relationships, even when they thought they have been. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, my school teacher, when I was in high school, my school teacher told us, our health teacher told us a story about how she was married to her husband for 24 years. And that was the best 24 years she had until she found out that out of those 24 years, 16 years, I'll never forget this story, 16 years of that marriage, he was having an affair. The moment she found out about the affair, her whole life spiraled out of control. She ended that marriage, got into another relationship, only to when she told us this story, only like 7 to 8 months later, something like that, for her and the husband to reconcile. And he told her what it was that this other woman was giving him, what he needed, and et cetera, et cetera. And they agreed. And they got married while we were still, like, she was my teacher, well, still in the school for another 2 years. And she was blissful. And I never will forget that because I thought about my grandmothers and all of them hearing the stories about how the men that they were married to, how they would have these extra these affairs, and they would know that these men had these other women across town, and they were okay with it as long as it wasn't directly up in their face. But at the time, I didn't know what monogamy was, right? So I didn't have that verbiage, that language, or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, every time these type of conversations come up, I always laugh because I'm like, it really is an ego thing. And the ego, and the reason why the ego plays a part is because people are embarrassed to stand outside of what society says is the norm or what should be the norm. But in total retrospect, none of our exes has been monogamous.
And it's like, I think it's a saving face thing too, Rumors. And I know, like, for example, being real with myself, I was in a situation where I was with my long-term partner, who I'm friends with to this day. I mean, and I met somebody else who was 20 years younger than me. And oh my God. So I ended up stepping out, and I did not end up doing it in an upfront way. So when it all came out and we sat down together, and it's one of the hardest things I've ever done with my partner. And I told him the truth. I said, I want both of you. Can we be in a situation where I can be with both of you? So I have asked that of someone. So that's why it's not a deal breaker. I understand.
And let's be for real. With all that comes with being in a relationship. Hell, who wouldn't want the help? Like, who would not want the help? Like, sisters, come on, y'all. Sometimes you don't even want to be bothered. Yeah. And sometimes he may not want to be bothered with you, so you go on over there. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think that we were really created, and everybody doesn't have to agree, but I really don't think that we were created for monogamy. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I see that monogamy is also a thing in nature, but I also see that everything is a thing in nature. So, I think some people are naturally oriented toward, like, some people just don't have, like, some people's ADHD is set up in such a way that, it's just like they just need to be able to flow and be, and other people, I think, are a lot more like kind of self-contained and introverted, and so monogamy probably appeals to them in that way. I also think on a societal level that monogamy was largely fueled and normalized and instituted because of patriarchy. monogamy was a way of accomplishing ownership and kind of this exploitative take on human beings. And since the world has historically largely been patriarchal, I'm not surprised that monogamy is a thing. But I agree that I think at its most general basis that not only are most human beings more poly by nature without all of the indoctrination, but that most human beings are also more sexual fluid than what they realize. And I think this is why we've always kind of seen fluidity with women, but this is also why we're seeing like an uptake in fluidity also in men, in Black men who are becoming, more and more progressive as it relates to their ideas around intimacy and sexual intimacy and being trans attracted and being a genophilia, which opens up the vows to who they can be attracted to in terms of other feminine entities outside of natural born women, such as trans women, effeminate men, etc. We're seeing people become more honest about being bisexual and pansexual, and so it's interesting that this is all kind of taking place, and it's kind of an exciting time because it kind of feels a little bit reminiscent of the hippie era, where it was just kind of all about just high vibes and just catching a vibe and not really getting into the logistics and the legalities of things, but just being just more present and just kind of allowing whatever happens to kind of happen and to kind of allow human nature to just do whatever it's actually designed to do. And that there is a liberation and an authenticity in that is gorgeous and that I am excited about. That's kind of re-entering and resurrecting itself back into the world. And I just think that it's just, it in this era, there's definitely trouble, but there are definitely also like some exciting things that are also taking place and that give me like hope about us all being able to be free, not just outwardly, but also like this inner obtainment of freedom and authenticity. Last but not least, I wanted to ask you guys about Iyanla her and Cam had touched on like Black men and Black women. Do y'all have any thoughts about what y'all feel needs to happen or what y'all would like to see between Black men and Black women in this age of the manosphere, the woman's sphere, high valued man, high valued woman, Black woman being unprotected, Black men feeling, that just what are y'all's attitude about all that?
I offer Black men grace, but I use my discernment on who to extend the grace to. Like there's a generic grace, and then there's I don't want to say divine, but that's the only word I can think of, like a divine grace, where I would extend myself. And that is someone that shows me that they're willing to do the work. They're willing to compromise. They want to heal the fracture. I'm not interested in coddling, because something was very important that Iyanla said when she spoke about Jonathan Mayers. We can still love on them and still pat them on the behind, she said, check them basically. And that's a nurturing thing. I feel like the fracture is so deep though, like on both sides. It is so deep. And the problem is though, there's more willingness from the Black woman. And even though we see the numbers are rising where Black women are literally like diversing, and just basically doing without a Black man, I still feel that there's something pulling at my heartstrings for the Black man. But again, I choose to use my discernment, um, because I do know how the adversary like works with us, Black women, when it comes, because we identify, we've talked about this before. I know I was identifying Black men with my sons and my brothers, the men that I love. But even with that, like I spoke about my brother, even with that, it cannot be at my own expense. So I do think that those type of conversation, I think that when we have these discussions with Black men, that the same way we're speaking about our moms, I think that we should discuss where the fractures are, but I think that we need to also speak life into them, acknowledge whatever good they are doing, um, and just be willing to humanize them, but not at your own expense. I think there definitely has to be a balance.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to piggyback off of that. And this is something I'm doing in all of my relationships across the board. What I would really like to be able to do is to create a space for Black men and Black women who choose to come together and talk about what is the root cause of all of this. It is this racist, white supremacist, patriarchal cesspool that we live in. And the main question that I have for myself and that I have for all of my relationships, and I have done what you have been doing. I have shut the door. This is dry land over here. And if you want to stay over there in that vortex, in that water, that whirlpool, you can. What is it going to take for us to see each other and love each other and honor each other as fully human and fully divine? And what happens, all of my relationships, the main obstacles to that, the main betrayals, the main pain that has been caused has been when people I think are very close to me, for again, whatever background, and this goes even more specifically for Black men, is you can't see me as fully human because you have so internalized this bullshit, and like you are buying into the whiteness, you are buying into the privilege, or you are buying into disrespecting me or undermining me in some way because I'm a Black woman. And with Black men in particular, I'm going to say, look, this has done a number on us. And I also understand because I grew up in a lot of ways where Black men were elevated kind of in the ways that you were talking about, Conscious, where there's a certain way that Black men can punch down on Black women because this is not just a racist society. It's also a misogynistic and a homophobic and a transphobic society. So I'm like, if you really want to heal and we are going to be able to come together, then that means you got to let go of the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Heal and reclaim your actual divine masculinity. But to do that, you're going to have to address and work through the patriarchy. And we all do to different degrees. Now, I'm like, you can't choose the patriarchy, but then criticize the racism. It's a package deal. And in relation to me as a Black woman, it is the patriarchy that is being held on to that is keeping us from fully seeing and honoring each other. When it comes to other folks, like a white girlfriend who I literally thought for years was my sister by another mother and another mister, and baby, she chose that whiteness. She ended up choosing that whiteness. I had one of her friends in my home, and that Chingada was disrespecting me to my face in my own home like no one has ever done. And the only reason why I did not cuss her out and kick her out was because of my friendship, which is no more, with a white woman. We got to address that elephant in the room.
Yeah.
We got to heal this stuff up. This stuff is effing everybody over. It's doing a number on everybody. You've got to address the patriarchy. Black women, we have to address the internalized misogyny and white supremacy. I've been working on that. That's why I won't let that stuff in my life. And like you said, I don't care who you are. I don't care how long we've had a relationship. Where were you? Why didn't you show up? You're looking at me, wanting me to be like, but appeal to my sentimentality. But where were you?
That part.
You don't see me as fully human because you just let this white bitch come up here and call me everything except a child of God. So you gotta go. And it's the same thing for the men. If you're gonna choose the patriarchy when you know this is some white demonic cracker shit, then you're gonna have to seek life elsewhere. But if you want to heal that stuff up, I'm here, brother, with open arms.
Right.
If you wanted to come in here dry or be dried off, then
you can get wet, but in a different way, honey.
You know, Mary, I'm interested. I would like to have, maybe we can do that in the future. I would like to have a conversation with some emotionally intelligent Black men. I personally don't want to have, because it's redundant to me, I don't want to have the conversation of what is the cause, because we all know the cause. I want to hear from Black men to tell me not anything materialistic, nothing physical, tangible, financial. I would really love to hear from the Black men, what are their needs? I don't know if because as a human being myself.
So my question to you was, like, did you hear what Iyanla said? Like, how did you feel about her saying? No, I think it was Cam who said to her, a lot of Black men. How did he say it? The Black men want to be mothered, but they don't want to admit to other men.
Openly, yes, they don't. They don't want to admit it to other men. Yes. I thought that was actually the truth. I thought that was actually the truth, because we do know that a lot of these Black men are suffering, just like the women are suffering, mother fractures.
Yeah.
It is something very interesting, because when she spoke about Jonathan real briefly, when she said you can still nurture him, still love on him, but also you can correct him, pat him on the behind. That is something that mothers, we fail to do. That's why when she spoke about being the father, it was so profound, her saying I played the role of a father, because women, we had to, as a single parent, we for some reason, most mothers, not all, most Black mothers, we thought when we, as a single parent, we had to play the role of the father and lessen the role of the mother. And so because we did not give a balance, right, that created the fracture. And it is important for us as women, when we're dating these men, to understand, because we say it all the time, he looking for somebody to be his mother. It is very true, but there's a balance there, because we should be nurturing. We should be nurturing, but we don't have to coddle. There's a difference between being nurturing and coddling. And I don't think that we know the difference. Most of us have not learned the difference. And even when we articulate ourselves, we've seen it plenty of times, it becomes so toxic in our ways of communicating with each other. We don't know how to communicate. We don't, and I'm not talking about speaking through passion, but we just continue to go back and forth with such toxic rhetoric. That's why I'm only interested in having the conversation to hear, what are your needs? And if your needs are something that you can fulfill for yourself, it always should start with self first. To look for me to have an expectation, Conscious, for you to come to you and expect for you to love me and fill me up, is really incorrect with the universe, because I am supposed to be the first partaker. I'm supposed to be able to give myself things that are needed before I go expecting it from anyone else, because people fall short and they may not be able to provide that need. And so I think those type of conversations is really what's needed Because when I tell you, I was so tired, and I promised myself, I said I will never come up on the panel ever again if we have a panel where it's the black man versus the black woman, because we never get a resolve. We just constantly go in circles talking about the problems, and we never ever come up with a resolve and how to heal the fractures. I don't want to keep doing that. That to me, that is like trauma bonding. And I don't want to be in, I don't want to, I just cannot do that anymore. So that's how I feel personally, that the conversations that with any relationship, we should always be able to sit down and have the conversation of what are your needs and what are your wants. And then you negotiate, because some things you don't compromise on, right? And then there are some things that we have to have room to compromise. Because if I know that the majority of black men out here have these broken fractures, I cannot look for them to live up to a standard when I know that they haven't even begun the journey to heal.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to have realistic expectations. We
Which
have
is
to
why
also take
our question room was the integrity of what men will even ask for, because you can't even give me your list of wants and demands until you done been healed, because I know that as a result of you being broken, what you want is also going to be rooted in brokenness and rooted in patriarchy and rooted in trauma and dysfunction. So go heal that shit so that you can get clear about what you should be wanting, and you can have a good grasp on what is even healthy as a desire and what is even healthy to expect and to ask of another human being. Because a lot of these people are doing their asking, and the shit they're asking for is diabolical, and it's so out of order, and it's so dysfunctional and incongruent and egoic. And I know it's because they're unhealed and doing the asking. And I know even beyond therapy, this really has to start with us doing a whole massive overhaul of the culture and society as a whole in our community, because this shit really is supposed to be in us from birth, because conscious healed people are supposed to be the ones endowing upon procreation. I know that we live in a society where people procreate out of flimsiness and with no rite of passage and with no vision, with no intentionality. Just anybody, we with the reproductive system has a license to simply reproduce, and that couldn't be more blasphemous and non-sacred, because we should really see it as an honor and as one of the deepest privileges to be able to bring forth the life and to then cultivate that life. And if we lived in a society where people first healed, became whole, strengthened their awareness, had their principles and their ethics in order, and then embarked upon the sacred journey of procreating, we could also heavily eliminate fucking therapists because nobody's life would be so heavily tilted over in such a way, with also us cleaning up the external and systemic issues that also contribute to trauma. We wouldn't even need, it wouldn't even be this fucked up, but we have to do the work in such a way and go so far back on a premise of self. I feel before we can even get to what it is we want out of each other, because self is so tore the hell up. And I think the more that we have these conversations collectively as a culture, as a community, all these podcasts, all these shows, all of this celebrity, discord, all of the societal upheaval, all of the statistics around Black men's health, all of the divorce rates, that we're able to see that we are definitely in trouble, and we can't even afford, we really even shouldn't be a body of people even talking about fucking romantic relationships. Like we are even getting ahead of ourselves as a community by even thinking that we can even afford to be in relationships and to bring other people and children into our damn lives with so much shit generationally and interpersonally that has not been addressed and healed up. I really would like to see our community back the fuck up off of everything. Back up off of marriage, back up off of dating, back up off of having kids, and back that ass up into a prayer closet and a corner and get our individual self together and come under profound confrontation of self, healthy confrontation of self, because it's going to start at self.
You know what's interesting, Conscious? I have been seeing that, honestly. And I've been definitely bigging up. I've seen a large mass of, I don't know if those are Gen Z that literally are single, that are out here working, traveling, exploring. Like the last thing they want to do is settle down, start a family. Not that that's not on their to-do list, but it's not at the top of their to-do list. And unfortunately, I do believe that their generation is going to be the ones to break the cycle and um, recreate the culture, not recreate, but go back to the original culture, establish all of the things that have been broken and lost in translation with us. I see that happening. Um, and I constantly make the effort in having these type of conversations with my sons, because I do realize that they got to go into the world one day. And I just don't want them to be one of these fucked up ass Black men. And so I have, like, I even let them, there are times that I would let them listen. Like if we do a live and I'll go, like if it was, not, it don't have to necessarily be PG, but these type of conversation, I will go have my children sit down with me and I'll do the playback with them. So that they can hear, it's not just coming from your mom. This is something that is important. And I'm glad, like Mary was saying, she talks to some of the children in her lives and things of that nature, because it's important. These are tribal culture ways that were instilled, and that, again, we know how it happened, and it is being corrected. I think it's just very important, because we may not be able to, not the Gen Zs, the millennials, the baby boomers, and all of, they may not ever get it correct.
Yeah.
It may be every man for himself while the boat is sinking type of thing, or whatever. But we definitely have to make sure that we have these conversations with those that are coming up, because we know children are sponges. And if you have people that have this type of knowledge and wisdom and is willing to impart it into them, it needs to be done. It really does.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. And as long as we got breath in our body and have a platform and platforms, we're going to continue to forward and fuel and produce these conversations, which is why I wanted to review this dialogue. This interview, and open up the floor for us to have conversations about all these aspects of what's going on in and amongst our people. And this was another enriching dialogue. So I just really want to appreciate both of you ladies and support us for supporting me and supporting this conversation and being so transparent about your own experience as young girls with mothers and as adults, who are navigating y'all's own lived experiences for better and for worse. This was a really gorgeous interaction and engagement. I want to thank y'all.
Thank you too. I do want to encourage single Black moms and just moms. Period. We're gonna fall short, as Conscious said. Offer ourselves grace. And please, it is very important. Never let someone else tell your children your story. Please, please talk to your children. There's nothing that we can share with our children that will make them think lesser of us. They will actually respect you more if you keep it real and you tell them. It'll create a relationship, a bonded relationship like no other. I love you, Black queens. I love y'all for real.
Period. And we love y'all back. Thank you for being here, Rumors and Tea.
All right, love y'all, panel.
Love you
Thank
too.
you, Rumors and Tea, and thank you, Conscious. I love you all.
Mary, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And let me actually snap, because I don't know if Rumors and Tea had got it, but I'm gonna screenshot your email.
Thank you.
I don't know if she had got it before, so that yes, it's thank you for even facilitating a conversation between her son and your loved one. That's going to be impactful for sure. And thank you for being here. Any final words?
I love this. This space is a sanctuary for me, Conscious, and it's collective. It is truly a community here. I drop down into. I'm usually the bush baby in the comments. I usually stay in the chat, and everyone in the comments, everyone who shows up, you all create this space. We create it together. You hold the space, and Conscious, you are the one who has the vision, and you are the one who sets the tone. And we're doing it. We're doing the work that we are saying needs to be done. We're doing it now. We're doing it in real time in all of these different ways. And yes. I get my whole life. I get my whole life from your platform.
Oh, no, thank you. It couldn't give life without you all. Like, y'all are the hot sauce in my bag. I'm the bag and y'all the hot sauce in it, baby. So, it takes all of this dialogue and all of this transparency to make this platform what it is. So I'm so grateful for y'all. I'm so grateful to have supporters who come and bare their souls and who open up their lives. I think that Mary got kicked off, y'all. But I live for this. And, like I always say, we have a multi-purpose platform. We gag and we roast and we have a good time, because you just can't have life, without lightening the load, child. And sometimes you just gotta laugh to keep from damn crying, honey, because the shit out here so apocalyptic. Okay, so I try to balance out the platform with having substantive dialogue, outsourcing for opportunities to talk about deeper issues. We also have been getting into our political bag, and once again, we also use the celebrity world as a way to just also sometimes forward conversations that can be related to things that we are dealing with as a people. Because a lot of what be going on with these celebrities is not happening within a vacuum, and it is applicable to, societal issues, etc. Just like the P. Diddy and Cassie situation, DV is rampant in our community. It's so many ways you can use even what goes on in the entertainment industry as a way to have conversations and to bring awareness. So I just want to thank you guys. I love Iyanla Vanzant. Iyanla Vanzant has absolutely stated that Fix My Life will never happen again, baby. She's done. She's complete about it. Okay. But she continues to do ministry, and she continues to do healing work. She has a YouTube channel called The R Spot. Please subscribe to it. She also does consultations, and once again, she still does this work, but she does it more privately and with more discretion. And so I'm hoping that we can get more Fix My Life on mainstream television, because it was brilliant and nobody has filled that void yet since Fix My Life has been off. But I am very thankful to Iyanla for pushing through the difficultiness of having her healing practices subjected to the simple-mindedness of the outward world, because that ultimately is what had fatigued Iyanla. It was already bad enough that a lot of people were seeking out her work, and then having the audacity to fight her through the process and then go on a smear campaign after signing up for what she does and how she does it, and then also having, you know, her integrity and her practice also be subjected to the scrutiny of just, you know, the outward world. But I just hope Iyanla know that Iyanla, you know, her presence in TV and her presence in this world definitely has had substantive impact. I love Iyanla Vanzant. I'm so grateful to live on the same planet as her and to have lived in the same era as her. I think she's one of the greatest spiritual leaders of the 21st century, and she is definitely one of the she's an icon as a spiritual healer amongst the Black community. So I know that God ain't finished with her, and I'm excited to see what she does later. So if you guys didn't get opportunity to check out the conversation, please check out Cam Newton's platform. He interviewed Iyanla. Sign up for the R Spot, and I will see you guys tomorrow for some more entertainment business. Please thumbs up, subscribe, tell a friend of a friend of a friend, and shout out to all of my donators, including Mary. Also, I got another contributor to the Cash App. Let me shout out my boo, Miss Mac, honey, who says thank you for always facilitating these type of conversations. I've been a silent listener for a long time, and you deserve so much more. Thank you so much, Miss Mac. Thank you, Mary. Thank y'all so much. Oh my God. Thank y'all, child. Okay. I do this for y'all, baby. I love us for real, in the words of Monique. So God bless you guys. You guys know all donation information is in the link below. And you guys have a great night. Bye.